Posted another message on your stream. Call us back. We want to talk. Jennifer, we're trying to call you on your cell phone. Pick up.
Give me a minute.
We want to resolve this peacefully.
Does he look like a bitch?
Does he? Okay. All right, couple of super chats over here. Edie Bickley says
If
not.
you want to talk, you can call me back after 9. What? Yeah. I will tell you what, you can call me back after 9. Okay, well then we are not talking. I'm in the middle of working. I'm in the middle of dealing with a number. Okay, then there's nothing to talk about. If you can't even wait 20 minutes for me to finish working, then there's nothing to talk about.
Sierra Lover says, did you try your own iced coffee yet, Frank? Not yet. Not yet. It's been a little bit too hot lately, so I haven't been brewing anything. But when I start brewing it again, I will tell Lauren we have got to put some of this coffee into ice trays and make coffee ice cubes to then go and make our own iced coffee. I can't wait for that. Mark Swan says, missing that Flat Albert call. Hashtag quite lonely. Yes, where is Albert? I hope Albert didn't get upset because I said that the other night. He had a little bit of trouble getting what he wanted to say out. Because he knows I love him. I hope he calls in. And Chris Tawsey says, thanks, Carol. The Great Awakening is happening, and I know it's going to influence the 2020 election. I'm just worried that voter fraud is going to influence more. We need voter ID now. Voter ID is a great place to start, for sure. It would greatly reduce it. Like most things, it's not a cure-all, but it would greatly reduce it, and it would inhibit a lot of people from going and doing what they have become accustomed to doing. And it's just an accounting. I mean, that's why the census is most important than anything. It's an accounting thing. You know how much is available. You know how much is potential to be counted in certain places, certain districts. What's going on? How many citizens? Therefore, how many people are potential voters? Because not all citizens are registered voters. This is what it is. That's why the census is very, very important. I hope that whatever they do, they're actually able to do it. But then remember, everybody, 2016, that was as naked as we were flying. Naked as we were flying. We were assuming a lot of things back in 2016 that have subsequently been confirmed for us. And to have jumped over that hurdle without any kind of help, maybe it's better for us in 2020. Who knows? But I'm right there with you, Chris. I'm scared. That's one thing I'm nervous about. I'll say it over and over again. Going into 2016's election day, I had absolutely no faith that Hillary Clinton had any momentum whatsoever. But she had already stolen one election. That was the primary. And we know that from the DNC leaks, which spawned excuses and evasive maneuvers, also known as the dossier, the Trump, Russia narrative that we're still talking about right now. All this has to do with 2016, of course. but the election that was stolen wasn't the one that they're claiming was stolen. Mr. Smith, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, I just was watching some of the smaller testimony, and I observed something that I don't think anybody picked up on yet. There was a lady senator, that, congresswoman, that said there was 38,000 tweets, or accounts, 175,000 tweets that these accounts have put out. And it was a total of 1.4 million people had seen these, and these were the Russians that were doing the propaganda for Trump.
Right.
And they were spending $1.25 million per month on doing this.
When did this? What?
Yes, they were spending $1.25 million per month doing this.
Okay.
Okay. Now, take that. They got to 1.4 million people. Didn't we just see the other night you had on the show a guy that came up? It was a Dr. Epstein. That said people reach a minimum of 2.6 million, and it swayed up to 10.6
Yep.
million people. Who was actually swaying the election?
Yeah, and the best thing is that there's no money, there's no paper trail there, because Google is just a massive, unaccountable corporation, and it has a lot of intelligence ties, and they are in bed with, the greatest spy apparatus ever created to mankind, and they don't need the money. There's no paper trail there to figure out, hey, there was Russian trolls that spent $16,000 on Facebook. And you're supposed to tell us that from this measly amount of money. I think when that guy from Google went before the Senate, and they asked them, they went to press him on how much the Russians or whoever were spending in Google. He said that they only found about $6,000. So
yeah, I was wondering where she got this 1.25 million.
I really, honestly, that is something I've never heard before in my life. Never in my life.
Was it wrong, man? I didn't understand.
No, well, listen, today was an opportunity to put a whole bunch of nonsense out there, Mr. Smith. It's all about keeping whatever the hell they haven't lost yet in place. There is an exodus from these crazy assholes. There is an ongoing exodus from these crazy assholes. They know how to organize on the ground, though, which is why I say never discount them. I mean, history is not... History, they are on the wrong side of history, and that is undisputed, but never discount their ability to organize on the ground. Whenever they felt like they were slipping in polls and they knew that they had to show some kind of sizable victories, then came the ballot harvesting, going door to door, extending early voting for Democrats in places like Arizona. We were watching what was going on in Georgia and Florida weeks and weeks after the midterm elections were going on. So this is who they are. This is what they're willing to put up. This is what they're willing to ante. So it's one of those things you just got to be worried about, because as far as their likability and their attractiveness, that's nobody's disputing that. They are unattractive at every level, and they're losing influence. But at the same time, they are suicide bombers. They will do anything. Thanks for the call, Mr. Smith.
All right, later.
Have a good one. And thanks for being a friend of the show all these years. Mr. Smith's been around a while. He's been one of the few that's been promoting. King Kraka on Twitch says this guy is a Russian bot. Yes, Mr. Smith is a Russian bot. There you go. Hornet 1022 says Fitton's talking about Ilan Elmi right now. Typo. Mark Swan says call Albert. Everybody's telling me to call Albert now? Alright, I'll call Albert. Let me just take a call from Doc Rocks first. What's going on, Doc? It's been a while. Holy shit! Take the microphone out of your mouth. Oh, there you go. You scared the hell out of me.
I'm excited to be on the air again. I've been trying to get through on some nights, especially when you had Black Patriot on, because I wanted to ask him about the border, because since he's been crossing it quite frequently, if he could actually give us the real scoop, because I'm tired of hearing that no new wall has been built.
So then, how would you counter that? Because you've been following a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah, but see, the reporting seems to all be biased. I mean, you keep seeing Trump with some photo ops with new pieces of the wall going up, but what are they doing? Are they just media's parsing their words, saying that all he's doing is replacing the chain link fence? I mean, the chain link fence was shit, and we're actually putting in a wall now.
Yeah.
So are they considered chain link fence a wall? So there's no new wall? I just would like somebody to explain it. Because Ann Coulter a few months ago got into a lot of shit because of her story, her reporting on the same thing.
I'm surprised that as much that has happened, given the circumstances and given how he had such a split Congress, even on the Republican side in the first 2 years. You know, there was a lot of bad blood that was flushed out of the Congress after 2018, including people like Paul Ryan. I mean, there's just so much bad blood that was pushed out of there. They could have gotten so much done in the first 2 years if there was any kind of balls, but there weren't any balls.
All right, well, when the first couple of years of Bush, I thought things were going to move along because the Democrats were all about building a wall and increasing border security. And all of a sudden, that all went up in smoke after 9/11. I mean, that was basically off the table.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, I was listening to most of the Mueller hearing today. I don't know who was talking about it, but the point that everybody has to realize is that Mueller and his gang worked from an inverted justice system. Mr. T was presumed guilty, so they could find obstruction even if there was no crime. And by using the term exonerate, the Dems are broadcasting their bias.
It's
People
true.
see this. And then, who you're talking about, Abe, that was talking about, the thing about nobody's above the law. Especially the president, unless he's a Democrat or an illegal alien. Because, I mean, they're giving, the Democrats always get a pass, the illegal aliens always get a pass. I'm waiting for Trump to bring back Sheriff Arpaio and bring back Obama's birth certificate. Because I still have a copy of the file that was posted on the whitehouse.gov site, and it's a 7-layer Adobe Illustrator file.
7 layers.
7 layers. You know what's really crazy about it is if you use Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, all you have to do is hit 3 keys, Control-Shift-E, to flatten all the layers, and then you can't peel the onion apart. But the person who built that thing either had a conscience or was stupid and didn't compress the layers so it could be disassembled.
Well, that's very interesting. If you got any more on that, Doc, please send it my way. It's good to hear from you. Thank you for the call. Good to hear from Doc. Doc rocks. First time Doc called in was around the time of the Vegas shooting. All right, let's find Albert. See what he is. Make sure he's okay. It's ridiculous for calling him now, but it's not ridiculous. We gotta check in on people. Let's see if it picks up. It says it's ringing. Hello?
Yo, what's up?
Hey, Albert.
Hey, what's going on?
You alright, man?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm just tired, man. I've been fucking busting my ass and everything. I've been listening.
People are worried about you. I'm worried too.
I just been working, man.
Oh, okay.
Last night I didn't get home till late. I've been listening to you halfway in the ride, and can't. It's hard to. Anyways, whatever.
All right.
Today is just kind of like romper room and whatnot, and Doc Rocks is cool. He's got a lot of points. He's got that Primus birth certificate. Maybe you'll get that joke. Maybe you won't. Yeah. What's going on? You know, a lot of stuff's going on. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I heard the one guy, and I did have that clip come up today. I just didn't have time to watch. I'll probably watch it in the morning before I go to work.
Which
and
clip?
whatnot. The clip with I forget the guy from Ohio or whatever. That came up on my feed from I think John Reese or something like that.
Okay.
Just today's a busy day and whatnot. No, I didn't. You know, I wasn't bitter about anything.
Okay.
You know, I'm just chilling, sitting back. I didn't really have a whole lot to say tonight. That's why, you know, I'm not gonna call it if I ain't got nothing to say.
Oh, all right. Just want, hey,
But,
listen. As long as you're good, then you're good. That's great. How's the Empress Lisa?
She's doing awesome. She made me dinner today. She wished me happy birthday.
What?
You know,
Wait,
and all
wait.
this other stuff.
When's your birthday? Today?
Well, astrologically, it changes every day. I mean, I was born on the 29th, but that's not really people's birthdays, you know. It's like when the sun and the moon come into the same position. It happens. So it was today this year. So it was pretty nice. Even though I was tired when I got home.
All right.
We lost power too.
So the
We lost
29th.
power. We didn't get power back until yesterday. So we were running on the generator. I've been a little frazzled. That's why I haven't been locked in right now. I've been having to take care of a lot of other stuff and whatnot. But I'm still hanging in there, catching parts here and there. And I'll be, you know, after this weekend, I'll be locked up again.
Good. And well, listen, I'll make sure. So that means that Monday is your pathetic earthly birthday, and we will say happy birthday to you on Monday, even though you will not acknowledge it because you've got your own. Of course, you're on your own timeline, and
Just not on the Gregorian calendar.
okay. So
You
what?
know,
When was my birthday this year? When was my birthday this
I don't-
year? I'm April 2nd.
Yeah, well, you have to know the exact time of birth and all that because
I think
you have your
7:37 or 7:38 p.m.
and what year.
1985.
So okay, and then you give me a hospital so I can coordinate. I'll put it in the software and I'll tell you. You know.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to you afterwards. It's too much work. Just pick a day and stick to it. All right, Albert. Well, it's great to hear from you. Send my best to the wife.
All right. Enjoy your evening.
All right. Bye bye. He had a long day at work. See, everybody, calm down. He's fine. He's just fine. He's just fine. Got a couple of super chats in here. David Kraft says, let's have a pig roast for the Jihad Squad. You know, I told Lauren I want a pig roast because she's very squeamish about the stuff that she cooks for me, especially because she doesn't eat meat and anything like that. But she prepares it and all that stuff. She still, every once in a while, bacon. You know, she'll have a little bit of bacon and stuff, but she can't handle meat anymore. And so she already has some stuff that she handles that makes her want to, you know, yak. And I told her one day, I said, you know what I want? I want to go get could you prepare me an entire pig? Just, you know, pig roast. I would love for you to just, you know, rotisserie me a pig. And she said, yeah, sure, go ahead. Go buy the pig. I said, all right, I will. Leslie Vonderheide, thank you so much for the blessing. Chode Man says, I hope they come to their senses on the question. Yes, I hope they come to their senses as well. Leslie Vonderheide, 2 more blessings, but one with a message. Mueller definitely impaired early onset. Something was going on. Something's happening. Absolutely. So, hello everybody. Hello everybody. Doc Rocks, you had something to add?
Yeah. Bring a 300-pound pig to rotisserie for you.
A 300-pound pig?
Yeah, get a big pig. And here, this is the other thing. I'm watching this shitstorm with Erica Thomas and Eric Sparks.
Oh, that's hilarious, that one. That's hilarious.
She had a press conference. She can't stand, right? Stand in line, but she could stand on in front of a podium. She could stand doing interviews, but she couldn't stand on a line. So she got lawyered up. Her lawyer wants him, Sparks charged criminally, he's getting a lawyer to take her to court civilly for defamation of character. This is going to be a funny thing.
It's going to be hilarious because it's all on tape. It's all on tape, and she has every. But this, well, listen, this is a microcosm because she's nothing but. And thanks again for the call, Doc. She's nothing. So I have to remember Lauren. I have to get Lauren a 300-pound pig. Doesn't a pig become a hog at 300 pounds? When does a pig become a hog? A boar is a hog often means a domestic pig that weighs more than 120 pounds. Okay, 300-pound pig is pretty much 2 hogs and a half. That's a huge fucking hog. That's a huge hog. Huge hog. What was the other thing? Oh, the Erica Thomas thing. She's nothing but a Georgia state representative in there. Okay, she's not like a part of the federal government. She's just playing her shtick, doing her little act on a local level. I'm sure she has greater aspirations. But you want to talk about them sticking to the script. You want to talk about them living their act. This is a woman. I have seen this so many times. And she does nobody justice. She fits so many different types of stereotypes, just aggressive and unaccountable, and the hand smacking and all that's it's just awful. Awful what she instead of, and she ran to social media to start crying about being told to go back to where you came from. The guy didn't say anything outside of calling her a selfish bitch for being in the express lane at a supermarket with like 20 items. And you gotta watch it. It's unbelievable. Actually, you know what? Go to John Ward. If you don't know what I'm talking about right now, let me go on to the site. I make sure that I put it in the Interesting Shite playlist. I'm pretty sure I did. So you can either go to, quite frankly, podcast.com, go to the on-demand section. There's the embed of the Interesting Shite playlist. Or if you're on the YouTube channel, go to the playlist section. And for Interesting Shite, it is the 1, 2, 3. It is the third one down. It is the third video down. It's called "The Democrat Went Down to Georgia" by John Ward. It's 22 minutes long. Your jaw's gonna drop. Your jaw's gonna drop. How bad this is. And just great breakdown by John Ward. I don't have to say another damn thing. Thank you so much, everybody, for everything tonight. It was a great time. We covered all the Rumpus Room stuff, all the Romper Room stuff. I understand it was surface level stuff, but we are at what I hope is the end of this nonsense. So we'll see what comes next. And tomorrow night's going to be a great show. Going to have Tracy Beans in studio. Rob will probably be here in studio sometime near the 8 o'clock hour. We'll have an open discussion about evil and so many other things. Who knows? So with that being said, thank you for everything. Talk to you all soon. Support independent media. All the links to support me or to find everything else I'm doing is right in the description below, or it's on the website. I just put another blog post up with all the show notes from the Epstein Island, the underground bunker, the John Benet Ramsey stuff from last night. So the new blog is up, and with that being said, I thank you so much for the time. I'll talk to you soon. Be well.
Okay.
I've had to wait 15 months to get my daughter back, and you couldn't wait 20 minutes.
Apparently.
And I did answer the phone at 9.
We had a dropout right at the very end there. Ridiculous. Don't worry. Gigabit upload.
I actually follow through on my promises, and I actually keep my word, unlike other people. I said, I actually keep my promises, and I don't break my word, unlike some people.
Let's try this again, shall we? Quite frankly, this film before a live studio
No, I'm in the same spot, but if you're not hearing me, there's probably a reason why.
Starting from the very tippy toppy top. Curious
Okay.
Now, Chris Stewart, Winter Wind 89, Open Mind.
No, I still have somebody outside the house blaring on a loudspeaker. And that's pretty much it. Shouldn't you know that, being that you're, I was about to say, shouldn't you know that because you're with the police? Oh, that's not going to happen though. I'm not coming out.
Thank you so much, Wintrell. I'll see you guys tomorrow. No doubt about it.
I've been working with you. Okay, well, neither am I. I've been working with you. No, I can hear you perfectly fine. No, I'm definitely not coming out with nothing, because at the very least, if I come out, it's going to be with a lot of legal paperwork. It's going to be with a lot of documents, it's going to be a lot of medical records, a lot of recordings, a lot of videos, all that kind of stuff. So I will not be coming out empty-handed in any shape or form. I'll either be dragged out and leave a nice big trail of blood behind me, or I'll be walking out with professionals from the Department of Justice next to me as I carry a nice big legal bag with me. Well, that's where we are right now. I either leave with my legal bag, or a lot of people leave very, very bloody. That's your choice. I didn't start this. I didn't open up a fraudulent substance abuse case. You did. You, as in being that you're from Baltimore County, the police. Okay. Then you're very, very selective in what you're hearing.
July 23rd, 2019.
You are not coming in here, and I'm not going out there. And I will defend myself, and I will protect myself from you.
The song was called So Much for Love.
No, I do not. Then I told you, I will come out under certain conditions. You meet those conditions, and I will be right on out. Not a second beforehand. If you want to keep calling, all right, well, I'm going to block your phone number. I honestly, I don't really care what you want. I really don't care what you want. What I want is I want these children to stop being trafficked and abused. What I want is I want Ben Levy, Jill McFalls, Scott McFalls, Thomas McFalls, Christina Hudgens, Beverly Schulderbrandt, Michelle Trudeau arrested for, among many things, fraud, child trafficking, and making false statements to a court. No, there are a lot of people who can help that process move on, and I don't need to leave the house for that process to start. And my voice is being heard. It's being heard more in the house. Every single time I've come out at the behest of the police, I have been assaulted and detained, and I've been told to stop talking. All of a sudden you want me to talk now that I'm safely behind the door and you can't come and get me? I'm telling you right now, if I open that door, I'm going to get assaulted. That's not going to happen. I'm not coming out. Okay, then they're not going anywhere. That's fine with me. That's fine with me. They can sit out there for the next week. I have enough food to last for quite a while. So they can stay out there for a month. You want to keep calling me, I will block your phone number. I will turn off my phone. I don't need to hear it. So, yeah, that's where we are right now. You can sit out here I've got a month's supply of food plus. Enjoy blaring the front of my house, and enjoy me broadcasting how the only reason why you are here is because CPS is opening up fraudulent substance exposed newborn cases. So you can continue. Well, it's not going to happen this way. You're right. I'm well aware of what's going to happen. Do you know what's going to happen? Are you sure about that? Okay, well, I'm not going to sit here and have you threaten me. I'm not going to sit here. Yes, you are. You're sitting here and telling me what's going to happen if I don't come out of the house. Right now, what's been happening every single time I get out of the house is I get assaulted by one of you assholes. You want to walk me through it? I will let you speak, but don't you dare assume that I'm going to be leaving the house without a fight. So we can proceed with the conversation under that assumption. No. I'm not the one who opened up the fraudulent substance exposed newborn case. I'm not the one who's taking healthy children in case of neglect. I'm not the one who's giving those children seizures, heart murmurs, stunting their growth, and abusing them for the sake of abusing them out of spite. Guess what? Did you know that Benjamin Levy and Jill McFalls are currently getting paid federal money to lie to you and everybody else about this case? That's correct. These are people that are working with CPS that are opening fraudulent substance exposed newborn cases, taking healthy children in case of neglect. Iris McFalls, my daughter, was fed an organic, all-natural diet at home. Her foster family has been refusing to feed her organic out of spite. That legally is considered assault. That legally is considered abuse. I have not done anything wrong. Other than demand that people who open up fraudulent cases and traffic children be held criminally responsible. I am not leaving this house until I know these assholes are arrested. So I'll tell you what. You want to come in without arrest warrant and arrest me? By all means, feel free to do so. However, I will not be leaving this house and you will not be arresting me until I see Michelle Trudeau, Jill McFalls, Thomas McFalls, Scott McFalls, Benjamin Levy, Jennifer Sines, Christina Hudgens, and Beverly Shoulderbrandt behind bars. So I will not be stepping out of this house a moment before then. Have a nice night and stay there as long as you want.
In online platforms as well as others. Quote, without the discipline of meaningful market-based competition, digital platforms may act in ways that are not responsive to consumer demands, said Assistant Attorney General Macon Delarim of the Antitrust Division. Quote, the department's antitrust review will explore these important issues. The goal of the department's review is to assess the competitive conditions in the online marketplace in an objective and fair-minded manner, and to ensure Americans have access to free markets in which companies compete on the merits to provide services that users want. If violations of law are identified, the department will proceed appropriately to seek redress. This is enormous. It has enormous potential, at least, in case you're thinking that I'm selling hope porn. But it has enormous potential. What this means in the greater fight against censorship and the controlling and the stifling.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me here on Wednesday, July 24th. All my fellow truth seekers, all my fellow illusion destroyers. Hope you guys enjoyed that video I did last night. It's kind of a long one. I think almost an hour of me discussing various things. But I mean, sometimes you just gotta go that long. They're trying to brainwash us with so much stuff in this world that we got a lot to talk about, don't we? Anyway, this video I don't think will be quite as long, but nevertheless, I'm going to share with you guys what I feel important to know, important to undo the programming from, important to share, and just interesting. So we're going to talk about Q, of course. I think we have about 10 drops to cover. We'll discuss an organization trying to sue QAnon. Yes, I'm not making up that headline. Sue QAnon. We'll touch on that. We'll get into Mueller's hearing this morning. I watched a good portion of it, and I got a lot of thoughts on it. I'm sure you got a lot of thoughts on it, too. A lot of people have a lot of thoughts on it. Just log on Twitter. It's the only thing anybody's talking about today. So we'll chat along that. and we'll chat about a couple other interesting theories. NPR running an interview with Ruth Bader Ginsburg today. A couple ironic things about that I want to share. And also a theory going around 4chan as to who the drone anon might be. Who the guy taking the drone footage of Epstein's Little St. James Island and uploading it to YouTube, who that might be. Again, just a theory, not confirmed, but maybe. Interesting thread on 4chan we'll take a look at. So, to get started, I just want to share with you guys a few of my social medias, a few things I have coming up. First of all, I'm going to be on, drumroll, the Tinfoil Hat podcast with Sam Tripoli. I'll be talking to him tomorrow. No idea when he's going to put up the interview, and frankly, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but I'm excited to be on his show. Big fan of it, big fan of the comedy stuff he does, because, let's be real, sometimes these deep, dark subjects we're all learning go down a little bit easier with some humor. So excited to be on Tripoli's show. Also, on that note, I'll be interviewing the parents of the Q Baby a little later this evening. That video will come out in just a couple days, but excited to meet them. They seem like really sweet people, so should be a good time. And then I want to share with you guys my social media accounts too, that you can go check out. So first of all, Instagram, got my personal page. I'm trying to get to 20,000 on there, so help me get a few more followers there on Instagram. I got my personal one. Share a lot of memes, share a lot of stuff on my story, things I have going on, etc. New stuff too. And then I also have my Destroying the Illusion Instagram page. Just started that I think a week or two ago. So links for all this stuff will be below. My Twitter, trying to get to 100,000 on there. That's a feat, but follow me on there, help me out with that. And then Facebooks, got my personal Facebook, my Destroying the Illusion Facebook, so all those will be below too. As much as I don't like the big tech platforms, gotta use them. It's where everybody's at. That's how we're gonna reach the most people, the people who haven't heard these messages before. So, still gonna use those. I have a Gab, have a Parler, have a Minds. I have all the alternative accounts just in case, but that's not where I'm primarily at. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is where it's happening, and Patreon. So Patreon, I do exclusive live chats on there. I do giveaways. If you sign up to my Patreon, you get a discount code for anything that I offer on my website, and it's just fun. Have some good times on there, so go check it out on Patreon. I appreciate the support for the independent media. So getting into business now. First of all, General Flynn has a new banner on his Twitter profile. As you can see here, he's got the Betsy Ross flag, American flag now is his Twitter profile. He's changed it many times over the last couple of years. It was, a wave, and it was a wave that was getting smaller and smaller, which, was interesting. It's been a few different things. Now he's changing it to the Betsy Ross flag, which is interesting because that was the flag, remember, during the Revolutionary War, if I'm not mistaken. My government education is failing me right here. So, what's that signifying? Are we in the midst of another American Revolution right now?
Yeah, we're trying to resolve this peacefully. No one here is going to hurt you. No one's going to rough you up. Just come out the front door with nothing in your hands and listen for commands.
Yeah, okay. That's gonna happen.
Jennifer, pick up the cell phone. It's so much easier when we're talking on the cell phone.
And listen to commands. You must be high.
We want to resolve this peacefully, Jennifer. We can't leave. We won't leave. We have an arrest warrant and a protective order that we have to serve. Pick up the cell phone and talk to us. Jennifer, answer the cell phone. We're trying to talk to you. Give us a call back at the number we provided.
Yeah, see, the thing is they do call and they've only said that I need to come out. They're not actually trying to work. They're not actually trying to compromise. They're pretty much just saying that I need to come out. They're completely ignoring all the medical records. Ultimately, Scott decided that he wanted to assault me in the house. I managed to get him outside. He tried to break down the door. I called the police, filed a petition. I called the police, filed a petition to ultimately press charges against him for assault and for trying to break down the door. They refused to take my testimony, and then a few hours later, the same officer who refused to take my testimony then takes Scott's testimony, and now apparently a commissioner decided that it's okay to arrest me, even though Scott has a history of writing false petitions and all that kind of stuff to the court, being disproven and debunked easily with medical records and proof. So we have a commissioner who signed a supposed arrest warrant based on no evidence, no nothing, because a police officer who refused to take my statement took only Scott's statement. And ultimately we're here right now because I have medical records proving that Child Protective Services is opening up fraudulent cases. So, yeah, last night the police wouldn't take my report. Our Officer Carper wouldn't take my report, but she goes and takes Scott's report, and then a few hours later the police show up with an arrest warrant after Scott broke down our door, and I have pictures of it, I have videos of it and everything. But, you know, they're here because Scott put in yet another bullshit bunk report. And once again, doesn't want to actually submit any of the evidence, doesn't want to submit any of the proof, wants to continue lying and all this kind of stuff. And we got the police sitting here saying that that they've got a warrant for my arrest that's signed by a commissioner that was written up by a supposed police officer who refused to take my testimony but only took Scott's testimony. Now, granted, the police officer, when she came in, honestly looked like she had just gotten out of bed. So I'm not even sure what extent of police officer she was, because she sure as hell wasn't properly uniformed or anything like that either. She was a complete and utter mess. So on one hand, we have Officer Carper, who's refusing to take my testimony, refusing to take my statements, but she's only willing to take Scott's testimony and Scott's statements. Now, if I pick up my cell phone, you're about to hear the police pretty much threaten to break down my door if I don't come outside with nothing. Now, they want me to go outside without any of the actual documentation or anything like that. When the last few times that I've gone outside and gone out to listen to the cops and open the door for them, they've assaulted me. It's also very interesting whenever they start talking. They always start talking whenever I talk about the fact that I've opened the door for them multiple times, and they've, instead of actually being appreciative and trying to work with me, they just outright assaulted me, as you guys have seen on the multiple videos on my channel. So why am I going to open the door again? If you guys want to know about what I'm talking about, the police assaults, just go back about a week or two. There's one right there. Then we have another assault about a year or so ago. So, I mean, we've got a history of the police assaulting me for no reason, for bullshit reasons. And they are sitting here saying, trust me, we're not going to assault you again. We have a fake police officer who's refusing to take your statements. We got other fake officers who's giving me fake warrants that aren't actually signed by a judge. And we got one guy sitting here in a tactical vehicle sitting out in front of my house blaring a horn saying he's got a warrant, but that warrant ain't a legitimate warrant. All of this is because CPS is opening up fraudulent substance-exposed newborn cases. I got medical records in here, but they don't care. They're still sitting out here running their mouths saying they got an arrest warrant when their arrest warrant is all because of CPS's bunk stuff. So they're pretty much saying that they're going to be here all night. And I said then they are more than welcome to be here all night long because I'm not going outside. So, yeah. That's what's gonna happen, and that's gonna stay out here. So I hope you guys are ready. I really like, what is it? God, My Patriot Supply. Let me. I'm gonna plug somebody. Thank you to My Patriot Supply. It's because of you that I have about a month of food. Well, let me turn this down for a minute.
I mean, sick shit. The victims that they go.
All right, let me pause this. All right. So anyway, sorry. Just wanted to say thanks to My Patriot Supply. It's because of you that I have over a month of supply of food in here. So these guys can sit outside the house for as long as they want because of CPS putting in fraudulent stuff and because of Scott putting in fraudulent stuff. They want me to go outside, but they don't want me to have with the medical records. They don't want me to have any of the documentation. So on one hand, they're saying that I gotta come outside and I gotta come outside with nothing. And they want to work with me, but if I tell them to wait 20 minutes, they couldn't wait 20 minutes. Clearly there's no interest in working together. They can't compromise, they can't work together. So, Yeah, no, they can sit out there all night long. I'm a heavy sleeper, and I'm going to enjoy having you guys listen to Patriots all night long.
But that's why the hunters are becoming the hunted. Good guys are getting control, and these sick folk are getting exposed. Next tweet, a tweet from Ted Cruz. Our next Q drop is a tweet from Ted Cruz here. He tweeted yesterday, he penned a letter to AG William Barr, Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, and FBI Director Chris Wray, calling for an investigation into Antifa under the RICO Act, Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. Ha! That's big news, because that means some big players are involved. Soros. Soros! Sorry, got to have something in my throat, but Antifa getting investigated, Big Tech getting investigated. Not a good week for the deep state. Booms all around. Booms all around. Now, next drop. Q linking us a tweet from John Solomon. John Solomon being the Hill contributor who's often on Hannity's show with Sarah Carter, often on Fox News there. One of the ones that Q has mentioned before in their drops, that this guy's a very good person, trying to get the truth out there. Could have even had some protection in the past, but this tweet says here, breaking, Department of Justice, Russia review targeting key figure, conclusion in Mueller report. Joseph Mifsud, who was the professor, quite likely actually a CIA asset as well, to determine if any improper surveillance occurred on George Papadopoulos. Funny that broke last night, and we'll take a look at what happened in the Mueller hearing today, because Mifsud did get brought up. So there's that, and then these last few drops. 2019, Year of the Boomerang. This is getting into today. This happened this morning. I believe Q dropped this right after the Mueller hearing was done. Year of the Boomerang. Boomerang. You throw it out, comes right back around, hits you. It's exactly what's going to happen to the deep state. All the shit that they've dealing for so long, it's going to come right back around and hit them. Thank you for all the super chats, my friend. Greatly appreciate it. Definitely helps with all of the ridiculous demonetization that YouTube's been doing to all of us content creators. But let's get back into these drops. Let's see here. Mueller is a puppet who attempted to regain control of the FBI and protect the deep state, is basically what this drop is informing us of. Q says there are puppets. Let me make this a little bit bigger. It might be easier to see for you guys. There are puppets. There are puppet masters, which is Mueller. Probably a puppet in some way, shape, or form at some time. Attempt to replace James Comey as FBI director failed. Attempt to regain FBI control. This is sort of laying out the idea that the deep state was trying to take back control of the FBI director position through Robert Mueller, could have been their puppet, whether they blackmailed him or something to that effect. Plot and plan, backup to initiate the special counsel to safeguard against criminal prosecution regarding illegal and criminal actions. The special counsel was meant to be a blockade, block any sort of progress the Trump administration was doing, especially against the deep state. The special counsel equals loss of FBI command control of safeguard. Department of Justice depends on what agency for investigating criminal actions. That is the FBI. So since the FBI was lost, they installed the special counsel trying to block any sort of progress. Mueller, remember, Q has told us that Mueller will be facing some consequences for Uranium One. Mueller was meant to bury Epstein and cover it up, as CISO did years ago. Mueller plot to remove newly elected President of the United States. Biggest scandal in American history. Treason, 2019, year of the boomerang. So I think Mueller was, blackmailed in the past, forced to do some bad stuff, and now he's possibly being leveraged into setting up this special counsel, purposely making it fail, purposely exposing the talking points, the narratives, the fake news that they're trying to bring towards the president, bring towards this Russia narrative. So nevertheless, that's ending. Next drop. Q gives us a tweet saying, "Who are the real racists? Projection does not work when we the people are awake." This tweet here from Twitter handle QAnon's pastry chef. Irrefutable evidence that Ilhan is a dangerous racist and bigot. And this is a quick excerpt of an interview that she did about 4 years ago where she basically was talking about white people and how white people are dangerous and how white people are the problems. Sounds like projection to me. And I actually saw this here tweet this morning, convenient, top of these replies. But I saw this tweet this morning and I posted it here. I saw this 2012 tweet from Omar this morning. Look at these hypocrites. This is an actual tweet. You can find it. Ilhan Omar from 2012. Why don't we deport you to wherever you came from, she says. But apparently it's a problem when the President of the United States talks about deportation, legal deportation of illegal immigrants, but it's cool when Ilhan Omar bashes white people and talks about deporting them. Hypocrites. Hypocrites in action. Raging narcissists. This next drop, force of nature definition. So this brings us to a tweet from Donald Trump today, just minutes before this. Let's check that timestamp. 1:14 on that. Donald Trump, 12:33. Donald Trump tweets, truth is a force of nature. And then a short time later is when Q posts this definition to a force of nature. Now, this isn't a Q proof because Q didn't post it beforehand, but nevertheless, force of nature. They are trying to tell us that the truth is coming to light, and they're trying to tell the bad guys to just stop lying. They've lied for so long, and they can't do it anymore. They're getting exposed. Next drop here, redrop on the power of free thought Q is giving us. Just saying that they try to label you as a conspiracy theorist, call you, mock you, control you, attack you, character assassinate you on the internet, shill you. You know, it's just completely an info war, and they've psychologically beat people trying to figure out the truth for so long that that's how they try to maintain the narrative, but it's not working anymore. Free thought, the Great Awakening is coming back. People are waking up to everything. Beautiful times we're in. Beautiful times we're in. So happy to have been born to experience this right now, play a part in it. And this last Q drop we have here, Q giving us a Fox News article. This Fox News article, headline here, in resurfaced interview, Ilhan Omar answers questions on jihadist terrorism by saying Americans should be more fearful of the white men. And this is that exact same interview. Q linked, boom, right here, from QAnon Pastry Chef, with Q saying the power of Anon research. The power of Anon research. One of the things that Q has brought, that Q has assisted in this Great Awakening with, one of the reasons they conducted this operation was to get a grassroots research effort, to get thousands of people posting information on the boards, digging into these various individuals, and bringing up the truth, basically. And it actually has repercussions, as we're seeing. Like, it actually does something. The power of Anon research. There was an article ran on Fox News from some video that Anon dug up a long time ago. Like, imagine that. Incredible. And not just how much information is hitting big-time media outlets from Anon research, but how much Anon research is actually going into investigations. Imagine that. Like, shoot, maybe any one of John Huber's team or some intel guys are cruising the boards and just taking whatever open source information that gets posted there and using it in some way, shape, or form. I mean, just incredible. Incredible what they're doing with this whole Q up. So those are the drops that we're covering here. Done there. Now let's go into a few other things. Let me move through these tweets, get rid of them. Alright, a few more things on Q. Not the drops, but other stories, and then we'll move on. Number one, how about this QAnon supporter actually running for a representative seat, a congressional representative seat in Minnesota? Her name's Danielle Stella, and look at all of this attack that she's getting in the, let's just call it deep state corporate bullshit media over the last day. So, I mean, shoot, look at this. Right Wing Watch, we already know what their lean is. Daily Beast, Chelsea Clinton sits on the board of directors of the company that owns the Daily Beast. We already know what their lean's going to be. And actually, let's guess who wrote these. Right Wing Watch. Let's take a wild guess. I bet it was Jared Holt. And the Daily Beast, I bet that one was Will Sommer. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see if I'm right. Oh, Jared Holt. Oh, it's clockwork. All right, let's take a look at the other one. The Daily Beast. Oh, it was Will Summer. Oh man. They're so creative. They're so ingenious. My lord. But of course, here they are, same narrative, both articles, etc., etc. They're trying to call Q crazy, white supremacists, racist, violent people, whatever their lean's going to be, you already know, and then try to lump her into that, tear her down, take her down, but it's not going to work. Oh, geez. They don't have much to go on anymore, do they? So they have to run articles like this. Nevertheless, let's see one more organization attacking Q. And this is actually kind of two organizations. Check this out. I kid you not. When I saw this yesterday, my reaction was just one of laughter. I couldn't help it. I saw Jack Posobiec retweet or tweet about the MAGA coalition suing QAnon in multiple jurisdictions. I just can't. Oh my god, MAGA coalition suing QAnon in multiple jurisdictions. Number one, Jack Posobiec, he's just been trying to undermine Q for nearly a year now in the most ridiculous ways. The ways that are extremely easy to expose, too. Microchip. Didn't Microchip claim that he was behind Q? And then once on Gab, I saw him post that he was claiming I was behind Q and a part of the chat logs that started it. Lies. I was never a part of any chat logs behind Q. So Jack's source is fake. We know Jack Posobiec is fake news. He's just spread all sorts of BS on Q. I think I saw him on an InfoWars program one time that was entitled The Secret Space Program. He was just making up some nonsense on it. He acts like he knows more than he really does. And the MAGA coalition suing QAnon. Let's take a look at that. MAGA coalition President Adam Gingrich announcing pending litigation to be filed in the federal court to discover the identity of the author of the 8chan post written by Q. Do it! I dare you! I dare you to do that. The case involves several posts on the 8chan board where, quote, QAnon anonymously promulgated a libelous attack on the MAGA coalition. Libelous attack on MAGA coalition? Geez, if we're talking about libel and slander and all that stuff, let's look at the MAGA Co. I've seen the president of that organization. They've tried to attack me on Twitter all the time, all sorts of slanderous stuff. They say Q-tards, inferring that people who follow Q are retards. No, that's not libelous. That's not slander, MAGA Co. They've promoted the narrative that I sell bleach. I drink bleach. I don't drink bleach. Anybody that calls chlorine dioxide or MMS bleach is just a blithering idiot, has no idea what they're talking about, and instantly exposes themselves. So, projection, right? Projection. It's the people who slander, people who attack, the people who are fools, are the ones who call others fools, call others slanderers. This is just hilarious. Funny to see. InfoWars, MAGA Co. They're just exposing themselves, truly. And then let's talk a little bit about that Mueller testimony that happened this morning. So I caught a good portion of it, was watching it for about an hour and a half, and what I noticed is that it went truly like back and forth. It was like night and day between different groups of people talking to Mueller. And by that I mean you had an individual like Gateway Pundit reports on here, Jim Jordan, or another Gateway Pundit article, Matt Gaetz, right? When they questioned Mueller, it was like, okay, as Jim Jordan right here catches Mueller off guard about Papadopoulos and miffs it, nails Mueller with his own report. Matt Gaetz grills Mueller, who refuses to discuss the junk steel dossier. I don't know how many times Mueller said purview. Like if you're making a drinking game out of it, you'd be just like drunk off your ass. Outside of my purview. Okay. So these guys, they were just grilling him. They were bringing up the dossier, the fake Russia stuff. It was like, boom, dark to light right there. And as Q has actually said before, note on this, the Freedom Caucus guys. Notice that they're all Freedom Caucus guys. Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, a couple of other folks, part of that Freedom Caucus there, trying to get the truth out today during the hearings, right? That's why Q is shining a light on that Freedom Caucus. A bunch of people who were basically trying to, the Freedom Caucus got, let's take a look at it here. It got created in 2015, basically, with a bunch of like libertarian Republican folks. And basically, I think they were sick of the Republican Party, and these guys were created to, move along with Trump and gain more power in the Republican Party and push out all the freaking weirdos and nonsense in the Republican Party and like purify it, and then try to take down the deep staters in the Democratic Party with it, right? So it was a way that a bunch of patriots kind of took down both parties, right? It's not a duality thing here, Democrat versus Republican, but that's just the game you have to play, right? So that's what the Freedom Caucus is, and it was all these guys who were trying to get the truth out. And then a deep stater came up. You had like Ted Lieu, or you had what's his name, Blumenthal from California, just total douchebag. These guys came up, and night and day. First few seconds they would go, "Oh, Mueller, you're so wonderful. Thank you for serving way back when in the Marines and this and that." And they would like wipe his ass, totally brown nose him for a few seconds, and then go into questioning his report and trying to say Trump obstructed justice. And they just sounded like blithering idiots. Then Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz would come up, and it would be like fire trying to get the truth out. And then a deep stater would come up and, "Oh, Mueller, thank you so much. And how about that Trump obstruction on page 97? Can you read that to me? Can you read that to me? Can you read that to me?" They were absurd. So that's basically how it went down. And I think even some never Trumper folk were saying this day was just awful for Mueller, awful for the Republican narrative that keeps getting circulated out there, and totally was. So I'm enjoying the show. Can't tell if Mueller's wearing a white hat or a black hat or a gray hat or if he's being leveraged or who he's being leveraged by in what way, but there you go. Some people are thinking that Mueller was the stealth bomber, which, interesting theory. Maybe he was leveraged into being one. And just enjoy the show, folks. Enjoy the show. And then a couple more things and we'll finish up. Number one, how about that theory on who the Dronanon is? So, Digital Soldier on Twitter. I'll link this below when I'm done. Digital Soldier on Twitter posted a thread from 4chan. Let's take a look at that thread from 4chan because it's somebody's very intriguing theory. Now, again, I don't know if it's true. Haven't done enough digging to yay it or nay it yet. I've just done some basic kind of digging on it. But nevertheless, this Anon here on 4chan, Rusty Shackelford. Interesting theory. Here's why. This particular Anon was saying, well, if you actually cross-reference here, let me get up the links. If you actually cross-reference John McAfee on his Twitter, he's of course, the tech guy, creator of the McAfee, that company. And he has lately been in the Caribbean on a boat. He's been boating around the Caribbean for a couple months now, maybe. But especially the last few weeks, posting pictures. This is from 5 days ago. Out there on a boat in the Caribbean. Now, so he's on a boat in the Caribbean. And we also know that John McAfee has a drone. He's posted photos of his drone and video from his drone on Twitter. So there you go. Testing drone operator right there. Very interesting. So he has a drone, he's floating around on a boat in the Caribbean, and this particular person is trying to timestamp different times where McAfee goes dark on Twitter, and then where the Rusty Shackelford YouTube channel started posting their videos from Epstein's Islands. Let's take a look at that really quick. Right here. Rusty Shackelford. Speaking of that Betsy Ross flag, there's that right there, but Rusty Shackelford. Shout out to my King of the Hill fans. Used to watch that show. That was Dale Gribble's pseudonym he would go by, Rusty Shackelford. Cracked me up when I saw that, the name of this. But nevertheless, you can see here, 2 weeks ago is when they first started posting the drone footage of Epstein's Island, whoever Rusty Shackelford is. And they're still doing it, quite a bit of drone footage, a couple minutes every few days or whatnot. So, of course, we don't know if this is footage that's taken one time, that's consistently put out, or, when it was all taken, but it's being released the past couple weeks. And again, timestamp that with McAfee out there in the Caribbean with a drone. Who knows? Don't know. You can do your own digging into it. Post this 4chan thread below. You can take a look at the alleged evidence and the other allegations. But that's just the ideas there. And then last thing, the NPR interview with Ruth Bader Ginsburg this morning. A couple of just incredibly ironic things about this and things that are pretty funny. The title of this, Justice Ginsburg, quote, "I am very much alive." Yeah, barely. And it sounds like, I mean, just the fact that they would have to run this article, I'm very much alive. Yeah, of course, they're trying to cover their ass. It sounds like what somebody who is actually dead might say if they wanted to keep her alive in the minds of the public. Yeah. But get this, okay? The funniest thing about this is not in the article itself or in the interview. It's actually the name of the journalist who conducted the interview. Her name is Nina Totenberg. If I'm getting that right. It's a German last name, okay? Totenberg. If you actually translate that in German, her last name translate meaning dead mountain. Toten means dead in German, and Berg is mountain. I don't care who you are, that's funny right there. Dead mountain. Totenberg. So Nina Dead Mountain conducted an interview of Ruth Bader Ginsburg saying, "I'm very much alive." Just ironic. Just ironic. You know, I'd venture to guess that maybe Ruth Bader Ginsburg's alive. But nevertheless, that's just funny. Once Ginsburg's out of there, Supreme Court be in much better shape. So that's everything that I have for you guys here. Thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in, hanging out with me for a few minutes here. Remember, take a look at all those social medias I posted earlier, the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook. Go check out my website. Go subscribe to that newsletter there at the bottom. Go check out the apparel. Seen some people getting some Space Force shirts. A lot of stuff, been grabbing some stuff from the site. Just saying, if you grab anything from my site, if you get something, if you get a shirt from the store there and you post it on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook using the hashtag, you're probably just destroying the illusion. I'll share it. Big thanks, for everybody who's grabbing some stuff. I just want to see. A lot of people have been grabbing the shirts and I don't see any pictures of it. So send those pictures my way, post them, post what you get, and I'll share it. And thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate all you guys' support. That's all for this one. Take care, y'all.
Escalated with our First Lady, and it's a disgrace what happened, but I think today proved a lot to everybody. In fact, some of my biggest opponents wrote things today that I wouldn't have believed they would have written, and I appreciate that they did that. This has been a very bad thing for our country, and despite everything we've been through, it's been an incredible 2.5 years for our country. The administration, our president, me, we've done a great job. We've got the strongest stock market, the best unemployment numbers, the most number of people ever working in the history of our country right now, almost 160 million. Our military has been rebuilt and getting even stronger. We've done a great job, and we've done it under this terrible phony cloud, that's all it was. And they should be ashamed of themselves, absolutely ashamed. And you know who knew it was a phony cloud more than anyone else? Was Schiff and Nadler and Schumer and Pelosi, every one of them. They all knew it was phony stuff. And you look at the polls are showing it maybe more than anybody else or anything else. And I've had my best polls, and I don't say why, but people see what's gone on in our country with this whole thing. I've been going through it for 3 years. For 3 years. All nonsense. So this was a very big day for our country. This was a very big day for the Republican Party. And you could say it was a great day for me, but I don't even like to say that. It's great. I'll tell you what, I very much appreciate those incredible warriors that you watched today on television, Republicans, that defended something and defended something very powerful, very important, because they were really defending our country. More than anything else, they were defending our country. But they were warriors, and they've been warriors for a long time. And everybody knew it was a hoax, especially the Democrats. I wish we could be a fly in the wall in those rooms where the Democrats would go in and talk before and after meetings. And they'd be laughing and smiling and say, can you believe that we're getting away with this? But in the end, they didn't get away with it. Yeah. So there is no such a thing. He didn't have the right to exonerate. And you know, it's very interesting. People mention exoneration. That was something where he totally folded because he never had the right to exonerate. And it was covered very well by Congressman Turner and put to a conclusion. We were, if you take a look at not only the report, beyond the report, take a look at not what he said, but what he was forced to say. And even your networks and your network and your network and every one of these networks, they put up their hands. You know, we had a couple of cases with, actually we had about 6 cases where they asked our people, our representatives, television networks, please don't come in tonight. We're not going to be doing much on it. And the reason they're not, because it's over. Go ahead. So WikiLeaks is a hoax just like everything else, and all of those problems having to do with crime were the biggest hoax of all. It was a witch hunt, a total witch hunt. And when you saw Robert Mueller's statement, the earlier statement, and then he did a recap, he did a correction later on in the afternoon, and you know what that correction was, and you still ask the question. You know why? Because you're fake news, and you're one of the most. And let me just tell you, the fact that you even asked that question, you're fake news, because you know what? He totally corrected himself in the afternoon, and you know that just as well as anybody. Caitlin. I don't know whose answers weren't. I guess his answers weren't, because if you look, the whole report, you take a look at what they did, some of the things that he didn't even know about, some of the things he didn't even know what was going on. But you know, in the end, what he did, he actually probably came through for himself. The performance was obviously not very good. He had a lot of problems. But what he showed more than anything else is that this whole thing has been 3 years of embarrassment and waste of time for our country. And you know what? The Democrats thought they could win an election like this. I think they hurt themselves very badly for 2020. Did I what? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. I mean, frankly, whether or not he did, it wouldn't matter to me, because he did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong, because it's so unimportant. It was always a very unimportant meeting. It was only important to the fake news. Go ahead. No, he didn't say that. Again, you're fake news, and you're right at the top of the list also. Let me just tell you, go back to it's not what he said. Read his correction. Read his correction. If you read his correction, you'll find out. That's why people don't deal with you, because you're not an honest reporter. John? John, they are devastated. The Democrats lost so big today. Their party is in shambles right now. They've got the squad leading their party. They are a mess. Where even you take a look at Scribe and you take a look at so many of the people that were the most outspoken, and they say this was a devastating day for the Democrats. And you know it, John, and everybody else knows it. This was a devastating day for the Democrats. No, a very dumb and very unfair question. Because if you look at his correction, he took that totally out of play. He made his decision based on the facts, not based on some rule. So you shouldn't even ask that question, because you know it's a phony. Go ahead. The Democrats had nothing, and now they have less than nothing. And I think they're going to lose the 2020 election very big, including congressional seats, because of the path that they chose. Now, who knows where it goes? From what I hear, they're giving up. But I just say, I know them too well. They'll never give up. They'll go back into the room and they'll try and figure something out. This whole thing has been, honestly, it's been collusion. It's been collusion with the media. It's been collusion with other countries. This has been a disaster for the Democrats, and I think we're going to win bigger than ever. Now, I'm going to West Virginia, one of the great states, a state that's doing, if you look at percentage up, I think it's number 1 or number 2 in the country, and nobody would have believed that. West Virginia is doing great. So I'm going to West Virginia. We did have a big case today. You know, we won the asylum case in Washington, which frankly, you should be asking about that, because that's the real deal. I can't believe how nice you are today. Go ahead, give me a question. No, because we did nothing wrong. The answer is very simple. Nothing was done wrong. This was all a big hoax. And if you look at it today, nothing was done wrong. Now, I believe what you're going to find a lot of things that were done very wrong, but that's going on now. That's something you haven't been writing about, and that has to do with the other side. That has to do with a thing called investigate the investigators. Let's see what happens. That's going to be very interesting. Look, I think Robert Mueller did a horrible job, both today and with respect to the investigation. But in all fairness to Robert Mueller, he had nothing to work with. You know, you can be a builder, but if they don't give you the right materials, you're not going to build a very good building. Robert Mueller had no material. He had nothing to work with. So obviously he did very poorly today. I don't think there's anybody, even among the fakers, I don't think there's anybody that would say he did well. I looked at your people, they're saying it was devastating for the Democrats. And even, I will tell you, the two most nauseous and nauseating networks whose ratings have both gone down, way down, even they said this was a really bad day for the Democrats. So Robert Mueller did a poor job, but in all fairness to him, he had nothing to work with, David. Look, I saw what he did to people, how he ruined people's lives because they didn't remember a date or something very minor. He ruined people's lives. The Democrats, they took people, they destroyed their lives. They went bankrupt because they couldn't afford the legal fees, and they were good people, many, many people. So when you ask me that question, all they have to do is see how nice this weather is. If I made a mistake and said I was talking to the media, and it was a little bit rainy, a little bit overcast, they'd say, well, we have to do, he lied. Let me tell you, I've seen what they've done to people. I've seen how they've destroyed people like General Flynn and so many others. What they've done to people, no, I did the right thing. Well, Mueller had no material. Sure, Mueller had no material to work with, and he did a horrible job. Obviously, his presentation was way off, but that's okay. It didn't matter. He had no material. There was nothing done wrong. In fact, things were done right. There was nothing done wrong. And certainly, I mean, look, I read the papers, and I read the press, and I read the internet, and if you see what's going on the internet, if you listen to the internet, this was one of the worst performances in the history of our country. So you know that very well. But I don't think anybody could have done a good performance. He had no material. It was a fake set of facts that the Democrats used and others to try and do really an illegal overthrow. But we're going to find out about that. Well, the asylum is a big, say it? So the asylum is a very big ruling. That was a tremendous ruling today. We appreciate it. We respect the courts very much. That helps us very much at the border. The numbers are way down at the border, which is a good thing. Apprehensions are way down because Mexico has now 22,000 soldiers, and they mean business because they know what happens. The alternative is not good for them. It's also good for Mexico what they're doing because the cartels have been running all of the border for years and years, and Mexico is saying, and the president is saying, we got to clean it up. So they've got 21,000 soldiers. They'll probably put up more, but this ruling today on asylum is a tremendous ruling. So Guatemala gave us their word. We were going to sign a safe third agreement, and then all of a sudden they backed up. They said it was their Supreme Court. I don't believe that, but they used their Supreme Court as the reason they didn't want to do it. So we'll either do tariffs or we'll do something. We're looking at something very severe with respect to Guatemala. I've already cut all payments. I did that a year ago. I cut all payments going to Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. We used to send them $500 million for nothing. For nothing. They didn't do anything except set up caravans. So Guatemala, we're going to take care of, and it won't even be tough. We're looking at a couple of different things. One of the things very heavy is, as you know, Mexico has put 6,000 people on that border. Let me just say something. I know you always have a question. You mean my White House aides lied? What about his aides? What about Mueller's aides? He didn't say that at all. You're untruthful when you ask. You are untruthful. When you ask that question, you're untruthful. And you know who else is untruthful? His aides. And Weissman was untruthful. And Weissman got caught just like he did with Arthur Anderson, where he lost in the Supreme Court 9-0. His aides were very untruthful. And they put Mueller, not at all. They put Mueller in a very bad position. His aides put him in a very bad position. And if you were ever truthful, you'd be able to write the truth.
So here now, Trey Gowdy, former member of the House Intelligence Committee and former House Oversight Committee Chair, and Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, both are Fox News contributors. Gentlemen, your reaction, first of all, Trey, to that conversation and those comments from the congressman.
They're having a hard time getting their standard right. In the criminal justice realm, you are cloaked with the presumption of innocence, and that remains with you unless and until the United States government proves each essential element of an offense beyond a reasonable doubt. That's whether you're the president or whether you're Andy McCarthy, that is the standard. Cicilline and others are applying a political standard that it is somehow the president's responsibility to exonerate himself or prove that he did not do something. You can't do it, which is why we don't make people do it in the court.
However, the inverse is also true, right? The president can't say, I was completely exonerated for the same reason.
I think when the president says that, he is speaking in a political, and keep in mind, before Bob Mueller had uttered a single syllable of his report, 60 House Democrats had moved to impeach him. Adam Schiff had him in jail, and then he had him in prison. As a jail warden.
Since you brought that up, I just want to play this little montage because this, when you hear the language that we heard today in there, I just want to remind people of the stakes. So here now, Trey Gowdy, former member of the House Intelligence Committee and former House Oversight Committee Chair, and Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, both are Fox News contributors. Gentlemen, your reaction, first of all, Trey, to that conversation and those comments from the congressman.
They're having a hard time getting their standard right. In the criminal justice realm, you are cloaked with the presumption of innocence, and that remains with you unless and until the United States government proves each essential element of an offense beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what, whether you're the president or whether you're Andy McCarthy, that is the standard. Cicilline and others are applying a political standard, that it is somehow the president's responsibility to exonerate himself or prove that he did not do something. You can't do it, which is why we don't make people do it in the court.
However, the inverse is also true, right? The president can't say, I was completely exonerated for the same reason.
I think when the president says that, he is speaking in a political, keep in mind, before Bob Mueller had uttered a single syllable of his report, 60 House Democrats had moved to impeach him. Adam Schiff had him in jail, and then he had him in prison. As if jail weren't enough.
Since you brought that up, I just want to play this little montage because this, when you hear the language that we heard today in there, I just want to remind people of the stakes and the bar, the way that it was placed as we went through this whole process. Let's play that.
He may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time.
By the time we get to 2020, Donald Trump may not even be president. In fact, he may not even be a free person.
Do you believe the president right now has been an agent of the Russians? Yes.
So, Andy, let me bring you in here. Your reaction to the bar that was set in comparison to where we are now.
Well, I agree with Trey on the narrow matter of the president. Whoever we're talking about, if you're going to bring the president into a criminal investigation, he has the same rights as everyone else. I agree with the congressman before who said that we hold him to a higher standard, but that's politically. If you're going to deal with him in the context of a criminal investigation, then he has the same rights of anyone who's in a criminal investigation. And when the congressman says that, Mueller laid out these 3 elements of the offense and there was evidence on each one of them, lawyers throw words like evidence around all the time. There may have been evidence on each element that's common in every single case. The question, as Trey said, is with respect to each element, does the evidence amount to guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? If it doesn't, then you have not satisfied the standard, and Mueller never said that he satisfied the standard.
I mean, well, in fairness to Representative Cicilline, now it does become the political question. And also, in many ways, that is what today was about. It was about the House trying to figure out, do we have the circumstances under which we should keep moving forward with this issue of whether or not we want impeachment proceedings, which, if that is what happens, that's in their court to decide what high crimes and misdemeanors are.
Martha, I would say it's always been political. I mean, I was on the Intelligence Committee when Adam Schiff drug his feet for 3 months and didn't even want to start interviewing witnesses because he wanted to stretch this out as long as he could. Here we are a couple of months before people begin to vote in 2020. They've been successful. What they wanted was Mueller to come in and do their job for them, to issue this report, this roadmap that could lead them to impeachment. The report was one thing. Today was an unmitigated train wreck and a disaster, and they are farther away from impeachment than they were this time yesterday.
Let's play this soundbite from Louis Gohmert, Congressman Louis Gohmert, from today with regard to the relationship between Comey and Strzok, because this goes to the issue of the origins of the investigation and what kind of shape that side of the story is in. Let's watch.
You and James Comey have been good friends, or were good friends for many years, correct?
No, we were business associates. We both started off in the Justice Department.
You were good friends. You can work together and not be friends, but you and Comey were friends.
We were friends.
Peter Strzok hated Trump.
Okay.
You didn't know that before he was made part of your team. Is that what you're saying?
I did not know that.
All right. When did you first learn?
When I did find out, I acted swiftly to have him reassigned elsewhere in the
Well, there's some discussion about how swift that was.
Quick thought on that, Andy, before we go.
I think that they are not any more entitled to the benefit of every doubt than what the Democrats are willing to accord to the president. This has to be investigated. It's part of the fact-finding process to determine how it was that they acquired the evidence and what we're to make of it, how we're to weigh it. This is where this investigation goes now. It's the investigation and the investigators.
I agree with Andy. We need a Department of Justice that everyone has respect and confidence in, regardless of your political ideation, and there's nothing wrong with looking into the origins of the Russia probe and whether or not the Department of Justice acted with integrity and followed policy.
Gentlemen, thank you. Great working with you today. Great to have you here on the panel and staying through this evening. We appreciate it.
But I mean, wouldn't it over?
What a joke.
That question, was the ball advanced?
No, impeachment's over. I don't think Nancy Pelosi is going to stand for her members bringing forth something that is going to obviously lose in the Senate, lose with the American public. And the problem with Mueller's testimony on this issue is that he had to carry the ball for them some way, whether he wanted to or not, at least by being a vigorous, strong, rock-solid prosecutor. And he looked like somebody who'd slowed a step or two, and perhaps as the Republicans are starting to put out there, maybe he wasn't even in control of all those angry Democrats. Maybe he's a figurehead, somebody from the past that they put there so they could do their dirty work. That's the theory they're coming out with. It's not going to be bought by Democrats, but they needed more fuel for any kind of impeachment effort.
Well, one of the things we saw, that question, was the ball advanced?
No, impeachment's over. I don't think Nancy Pelosi.
Same people who spent years pushing a phony Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory, and then they hyped for months that Mueller's testimony would finally get Trump, but of course none of that happened. Here's the best of the media's Mueller meltdown.
From the Democratic perspective, to me so far it's been a bit of a bust. If you are telling a story, particularly through a congressional hearing, what you really want is the witness to tell the story.
Bob Mueller's grasp and presentation of the underlying facts was not very detailed.
The shortcoming is in appearing to not know basic fact patterns.
They fumbled the entire accountability mission that they were supposed to be on these last 7 months. On optics, this was a disaster.
These are the same people who spent years pushing a phony Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory, and then they hyped for months that Mueller's testimony would finally get Trump, but of course none of that happened. Here's the best of the media's Mueller meltdown.
From the Democratic perspective, to me so far it's been a bit of a bust. If you are telling a story, particularly through a congressional hearing, what you really want is the witness to tell the story.
Bob Mueller's grasp and presentation of the underlying facts was not very detailed.
The shortcoming is in appearing to not know basic fact patterns.
They fumbled the entire accountability mission that they were supposed to be on these last 7 months. On optics, this was a disaster.
These are the same people who spent years pushing a phony Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory, and then they hyped for months that Mueller's testimony would finally get Trump, but of course none of that happened. Here's the best of the media's Mueller meltdown.
From the Democratic perspective, to me so far it's been a bit of a bust. If you are telling a story, particularly through a congressional hearing, what you really want is the witness to tell the story.
Bob Mueller's grasp and presentation of the underlying facts was not very detailed.
The shortcoming is in appearing to not know basic fact patterns.
They fumbled the entire accountability mission that they were supposed to be on these last 7 months. On optics, this was a disaster.
These are the same people who spent years pushing a phony Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory, and then they hyped for months that Mueller's testimony would finally get Trump, but of course none of that happened. Here's the best of the media's Mueller meltdown.
From the Democratic perspective, to me so far it's been a bit of a bust. If you are telling a story, particularly through a congressional hearing, what you really want is the witness to tell the story.
Bob Mueller's grasp and presentation of the underlying facts was not very detailed.
The shortcoming is in appearing to not know basic fact patterns.
They fumbled the entire accountability mission that they were supposed to be on these last 7 months. On optics, this was a disaster.
These are the same people who spent years pushing a phony Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory, and then they hyped for months that Mueller's testimony would finally get Trump, but of course none of that happened. Here's the best of the media's Mueller meltdown.
From the Democratic perspective, to me so far it's been a bit of a bust. If you are telling a story, particularly through a congressional hearing, what you really want is the witness to tell the story.
Bob Mueller's grasp and presentation of the underlying facts was not very detailed.
The shortcoming is in appearing to
It is time that America turns the page. It is time for America to move forward. The Democrats have to stop wasting time and trying to have a do-over of the 2016 presidential election. For more than 2 years, Democrats have obsessed about the Mueller investigation, going as far as falsely accusing that they had evidence of collusion, which we found that to be true today. We heard today only help to reinforce the facts that there is no collusion and there is no obstruction. It is well past the time to put this country first. The Democrats are more focused on bringing down the president than they are building up America. We've gone to roughly 200 days of this new Democrat socialist majority. Name me one thing that they have solved. We have a challenge on our border. We have a trade agreement that could build more jobs, make America stronger and more prosperous. But they will not bring it up. We have a challenge in our health care when it comes to surprise billing to thousands of Americans. Again, they've only focused on the Mueller investigation. Today is the end of that chapter. Today is politics aside. But to put this country first. When they tried to paint a picture today by putting up slides today and talking about obstruction and going through these different acts and even putting green check marks beside it, and then at the end when asked about it, Mr. Mueller says, I disagree with your theory or your interpretation. When we go through this, what we are seeing is, and in my committee, it's really interesting that because there was agreement on the one thing, that there was Russian and foreign interference in our 2016 election. But what has been the answer from my committee, my majority, and my chairman? To bring no bills forward, to bring no solutions forward. In fact, all we want to do is paint a picture of a president that they despise. They've done so since 2016, and for 7.5 months, that's 7 months, that's all we've done in our committee. Someone asked me yesterday, how did you prepare for the Mueller hearing? Didn't have to worry about it, because that's all my committee talks about. For 7 months, all we talk about. And everything we come up with, show hearings, dog and pony shows, running out old people from Watergate era, and what have we found? That the American people are footing the bill for a continuation of 2016 elections that they don't like. So the question I have is, if we're going to paint a picture, then let's paint the picture of what's actually happened. You have a Democratic majority who has no agenda, who has a Democratic majority who has trouble bringing bills to the floor, who has a Democratic majority in our own committee where the very things that they talk about, immigration, election interference, and others, could be dealt with, but they don't bring any bills forward. In fact, even tomorrow, we're going to have another hearing to talk about the problem on the border instead of fixing the problem on the border. I challenge the Democratic colleagues, get over the election of 2016. Run in 2020 if you want. This president has put forward a great economy. This president has put forward great ideas. Run on those. Quit trying to dredge up a picture that today got painted
They said your investigation is over. Mr. Mueller's done his job. He presented a report. Someone asked if you can find out anything new. The answer is no. Mueller is the collusion and conspiracy were over, and the observations of obstruction by the Democratic Authority he gets described to us here. Neither does the investigation. That's why we're fighting for real collusion instead of insinuation that COVID does. That's the difference.
The leader and my colleagues are exactly right. It's time to move on. Understand where we're at. 3 years ago next week is when the Trump-Russia investigation began. And the FBI investigated for 10 months. Understand the big picture. The president's falsely accused. FBI investigates it for 10 months. They find nothing. We know that because we deposed Jim Comey and he told us that. And then Bob Mueller takes over in May of 2017 and he investigates it for 22 months. So here we are now 3 years later, and Bob Mueller found no collusion, no conspiracy, no coordination. It is definitely time to move on. The second thing I would say is the investigation that matters, and I said this in today's hearing, well, actually the two investigations that matter most now. The one Mr. Horowitz is going to have completed here in a couple months, and of course, the one that the Attorney General has tasked John Durham, U.S. Attorney, to do, which is to look into how this whole 3-year saga began that our country has now lived through for these 3 years. So those are the things that matter, and I look forward to hearing from that. But let's stop the continuous investigation into something that's we've already spent 3 years on, and let's focus on those issues that really matter to the American people.
Republican Party, the Trump campaign is over. There was no evidence. There was a dossier that was built and paid for by the Clinton campaign. That was the real collusion. You had collusion through a British former MI6 agent who was working supposedly with Russian sources. We didn't get any new information on that today. But the Democrats have refused to accept reality. They live in an alternative universe. So I think, as Representative Collins said, and like we said today, this is over. And hopefully this will be the end of these hearings, because the House Intelligence Committee has important work to do. If you look at the national security for this country, there is nothing more important right now than passing the United States, Mexico, and Canadian agreement that's ready to go. If you look at the situation on our border, that has to be dealt with. We need real legislation to start to move through this House so it can get to the Senate. It's what the Democrats ran on. They promised solutions to immigration, and they're not delivering it. So, two pressing issues not being dealt with, hopefully after today. We will begin when we get back here in September. In between the Republican Party, the Trump campaign is over. There was no evidence. There was a dossier that was built and paid for by the Clinton campaign. That was the real collusion. You had collusion through a British former MI6 agent who was working supposedly with Russian sources. We didn't get any new information on that today. But the Democrats have refused to accept reality. They live in an alternative universe. So I think, as Representative Collins said, and like we said today, this is over. And hopefully this will be the end of these hearings, because the House Intelligence Committee has important work to do. If you look at the national security for this country, there is nothing more important right now than passing the United States, Mexico, and Canadian agreement that's ready to go. You look at the situation on our border, that has to be dealt with. We need real legislation to start to move through this House so it can get to the Senate. That's what the Democrats ran on. They promised solutions to immigration, and they're not delivering it. So, two pressing issues not being dealt with, hopefully after today. We will begin when we get back here in September to work on immigration reform and to pass this very important trade agreement.
For this between and having hearings on that. And I have to say this, for all of some of his other failings today, he clearly prepped hard on that. He did not give them the opportunity that they wanted. And he did not in any way, he didn't do any audio for them. He wouldn't read his own report for them. And he certainly would not agree with some of their overstatements about the characterization of his report, for instance, that Trump had committed obstruction of justice beyond a doubt.
Interesting. Do you think that Democrats, I mean, clearly we know what they wanted. They wanted a pretext for impeachment. But how could they have miscalculated so very badly?
Well, I think that this was their only shot. Think about it. The report was a complete dud, okay? The party is also hopelessly divided over this between the sort of crazies that are desperate to impeach Trump, parts of the resistance, and then the calmer heads like Nancy Pelosi who know that that could be terribly bad for them politically. So those who really want impeachment, this was their last gasp, get Mueller out, hope that he gave them some great sound bites, gin up the troops, and I don't think that they stopped to consider his ability to manage a hearing like this, or the fact that he had no interest whatsoever in putting himself in the middle of a political fray, and he definitely was careful not to do so.
But I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but at least in the movies, rule one of cross-examination is knowing what the answers are going to be. So wouldn't they have gamed this out? I mean, they just completely destroyed their case for impeachment. They humiliated themselves. They made it crystal clear that the whole thing is a hoax, no?
Oh, yeah. By the way, I think the only person in Washington perhaps more happy with Mueller's appearance than Donald Trump would be Nancy Pelosi, who doesn't want to go down the impeachment road, and he made it a lot easier for her today. I just think that in general, they didn't know where else to go with this. The report did not help them out. And look, think about how disingenuous this was in a way, too, Tucker. We have been hearing from the day that Mueller put out his report that all they wanted to do was talk to him so that they could ask him more questions about the underlying evidence. There were no questions like that today. All there was attempt after attempt to get Mueller to agree to publicly say that Trump had committed a crime.
To what end? I mean, they're such buffoons. It's destructive. Kim Strassel,
well,
thank you.
Well, it may end now.
Good to see you. Yeah, I think it will end now. I think we can say that conclusively. And that's at least one piece of good news. Good to see you tonight.
You too.
And he joins us tonight. Chris, how bad was this for the Democratic case?
I'm telling you, honestly, halfway through the hearing, I was waiting for him to reach under the table, pull out his thermos, and pour himself a bowl of soup. This was tragic. It was disastrous. It was. I feel sorry for the man. Obviously, he wasn't up to the task, and it was mean. I mean, my friend Marty suggested that Nadler should be charged with senior abuse for what we witnessed today, because it was horrible. It was all just designed to be a television show. People didn't read the book, they say, like all Americans are supposed to read 448 pages of a government report. And so they wanted to make it into a TV show or a movie. And they tried, and their star fell flat on his face. And let me say also that, God bless Mr. Mueller, but the Democrats and the committee were not up to the task either. They were ill prepared. They didn't have what I thought were intelligent questions. I don't think they moved anything forward. Whatever it is they were trying to achieve, I don't think they achieved it. Mr. Mueller really deflected almost every Republican question with a, that's not within my purview. The word purview was used more times today than any other single day in television history. And he really didn't answer any questions about the important stuff. And so now America hangs on pins and needles waiting for the next big government report.
Is dead, gone, it is buried. The real Russia investigation is only beginning. Now, today's hearing capped off what will now go down in history as one of the single biggest, most epic embarrassments in history, in American history. What happened today should shock the conscience of every American. The liars in the Democratic Party, their cheerleaders in the media mob, they have been exposed yet again. You can never trust these people, ever. For 2+ long years, 2.5 years, there they were. Now Robert Mueller, the golden goose. According to them, he was going to swoop in and prove their insane Russian lies, conspiracy theories once and for all, and that Donald Trump is going to be washed up and impeached and run out of town. Well, as a matter of fact, I'm watching the media today, and they were just about more depressed than they were on election night 2016. All week they were hyping up Mueller's testimony. Just this weekend, you had two of the biggest liars in the United States Congress. There they were, Chairman Nadler and the cowardly Adam Schiff, predicting Mueller's remarks would prove the president's guilt as an unindicted co-conspirator responsible for high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, it's safe to say that never happened. And per usual, the two biggest liars in Congress were caught lying again. Robert Mueller's testimony, well, the only way to put it, it was an unmitigated disaster. It was ugly. Here is just a small sample of what went down. We have a busy show tonight. Small sample.
Mr. Mueller, who wrote the 9-minute comments you read at your May 29th press conference?
I'd like to get into that.
Okay, so that's what I thought. You didn't write it.
Can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined?
I cannot, but this is a unique
situation. Well, you can't. Time is short. I've got 5 minutes. Let's just leave it at you can't find it because I'll tell you why. It doesn't exist. What's interesting, you can charge 13 Russians no one's ever heard of, no one's ever seen, no one's ever going to hear of them, no one's ever going to see them. You can charge them. You can charge all kinds of people who are around the president with false statements. But the guy who launches the guy who puts this whole story in motion, you can't charge him. I think that's amazing.
I'm not certain I agree with your characterization.
Well, I'm reading from your report.
Only one of two things is possible, right? Either Steele made this whole thing up and there were never any Russians telling him of this vast criminal conspiracy that you didn't find, or Russians lied to Steele. Now, if Russians were lying to Steele to undermine our confidence in our duly elected president, that would seem to be precisely your purview because you stated in your opening that the organizing principle was to fully and thoroughly investigate Russia's interference. But you weren't interested in whether or not Russians were interfering through Christopher Steele. And if Steele was lying, then you should have charged him with lying like you charged a variety of other people. But you say nothing about this in your report.
Great point, Jordan. Great point, Getz. These guys were amazing today. Not a good day at all for Robert Mueller. The liars in the media mob, the conspiracy theorists, those pushing a hoax in Congress and the media. As a matter of fact, even a worse day for Democrats. They used Mueller as their big pawn in what was a disgusting political game. They came up empty, but dangerously close to literally creating damage that would probably be unfixable. Byron York writing that Mueller's confused and dazed performance raises questions about handling of the investigation. Obama's former chief strategist David Axelrod said this is very, very painful. The conspiracy theorists over there at Roswell, Maddow's, MSDNC, they even called the hearing, just boring and confused, and then admitted, even Chucky Todd admitted it was a disaster. Well-known Trump hater Lawrence Tribe also called the hearing a disaster. And cue the violins because the witch hunt is dead. The media mob is in mourning. This is probably the most depressed they've been since election night 2016, when they got those exit polls, 515, showed, oh my gosh, Donald Trump didn't win a single state. They started their coverage at 6 o'clock. They were happy, gleeful, giddy, excited. They couldn't believe it. And then the night unfolded and reality caught up. Kind of like today. Take a look.
There were times in the hearing when he was sharp as a tack, but we can't avoid the fact that there were times in the hearing that he was not.
Today, he was a witness. And he frankly wasn't a really good witness. They needed to bring the report to life.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, it didn't come to life. It's still slumbering.
Yeah.
In fact, it is in a deep sleep.
He was the FBI director when I worked for George W. Bush. To be honest, this was not the Robert Mueller I knew.
Bob Mueller's not a made-for-TV guy, and we live in a made-for-TV society.
If you were looking for a made-for-TV kind of character, Mueller was not that perhaps today.
You do not have that viral movie trailer moment.
We talked about folks preferring movies to books. Occasionally the books are better than the movies. In this case, the book was much better than the movie.
A lot of Democrats in particular used the D word and branded this a disaster.
On optics, this was a disaster.
You look who's winning now. It certainly seems like Donald Trump is winning.
They're sad, they're in mourning because Mueller's testimony put a stake right through the heart of their lies, their impeachment dreams. Impeachment, well, now it's political suicide because it's finished, it's over. And while the media, of course, the mob is in mourning, President Trump, well, he was rightfully optimistic. But think about this. This president has lived with this almost since the time he came down that escalator with his wife, Melania. And it has gotten worse and worse every second, minute, hour of every day. But in spite of that, look at the success. Look at the trade deals. Look at the deregulation. Record low unemployment. The best employment situation since 1969. Isn't that great for the American people? Record low unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, youth unemployment. Now, I know if you watch other networks, you probably have never heard these statistics. In spite of this hanging over his head, the daily, incessant, nonstop pressure, heat that this president took, he still got the job done. Watch this.
I think everybody understands what's going on. There was no defense to this ridiculous hoax, this witch hunt that's been going on for a long time. This was a very big day for our country. This was a very big day for the Republican Party. And you could say it was a great day for me, but I don't even like to say that. It's great. The Democrats had nothing, and now they have less than nothing. And I think they're going to lose the 2020 election very big, including congressional seats, because of the path that they chose.
Now, for years on this program, and I want to say a very big thank you to the ensemble team that we have here. I can't mention everybody. I won't even begin to. But you know the people that we have had on. And we have been in the forefront of them, peeling one layer of the onion after another, after another, after another. It has been arduous. It has been shoe leather reporting the way it should be done. And we were in the minority as others perpetrated the lying, the hoax, the collusion, the conspiracy theories. And you know what? We told you from the beginning that the president was burdened with an unjust, biased witch hunt. We told you that today's hearing was nothing more than a political stunt, a Hail Mary, last-ditch effort to keep the Democrats' fake, phony narrative alive. We also told you that Mueller's testimony would likely backfire on the Democrats, and as it turns out, we were right all along.
Lindsey Graham issued a statement, read quote, after today's hearing and for the good of the country. I hope this is the end of the Mueller report. Now it's time to find out how this debacle started and went so far. Senator Graham joins us now. Your question I always go back to. You asked Attorney General Barr, are you confident Mueller had everything he needed to get the job done, the time? No, President never invoked executive privilege once. Well, 1.5 million documents. Everybody was accessible. My question is, Hillary get away with a fixed investigation when she committed crimes? Do the people involved in lying to a FISA court consciously, do they get away with it? The people that tried to influence a presidential election get away with it? And people that tried to undo that election get away with it, Senator? Or are you going to make sure that doesn't happen?
I'm more determined today after this hearing to get to the bottom of it. The question, did Hillary get let off because the people investigating her wanted her to win and Trump to lose? Was the reason that she wasn't prosecuted because of a political decision, political motivations? All of these are very important. The one thing I can tell you after today, the Mueller report is in name only. And the idea that you say, I did the White House report? We'll see. But it clearly wasn't the Mueller report. It's just in name. I had more to do with the Mueller report than probably he did. And you know what bothers me a lot? People around Bob Mueller knew he was in a weakened state. This guy served in Vietnam, got wounded, done a lot of great things for the country. He should not have been called.
Look, Senator, let me agree with you. You know, when the Attorney General agreed to the joint statement, Attorney General, I said at the time, he did a favor to Bob Mueller. The Attorney General was warning this is going to be a spectacle. It seems like the only person that understood and tried to prevent it was the one that was being accused of trying to rig it. Well, the Attorney General knew that this would be a disaster for Mueller. You're right. His background is one of a hero. The people that allowed this, that used him, the politicians on that committee, and the people on that group that hired and did all this, and he knew nothing and ran the show without him, they're the ones that did this to his reputation.
The hatred for Trump knows no boundaries. They use this man, and one of the reasons I told people.
Hey guys, so I wanted to give you a bit of an update on what's going on. Let me show you what's going on, because this just got a whole different level of pathetically entertaining. So, as you know, I kicked Scott out because Scott's an asshole. Tried to break down the door. I called the cops. Cops wouldn't take my statement. They would only take Scott's statement. So right now, we've got an armed vehicle in front of the house, demanding that I come outside. They don't have a legitimate or valid warrant. They don't have legitimate or valid anything. And then we also have this. I just discovered this one. So this is in the back of my house. They brought a spotlight or something to beam into my house. And this is the back. And this is the front. Yeah, I thought Scott was a nice guy. That's what happens when I try to give people a chance, I guess. They claim they have a warrant. However, I looked at the warrant, and it's not actually signed by a legitimate judge. It's signed with a stamp by a commissioner. Now, that's not a legitimate warrant. It's also definitely not a legitimate warrant when it's based on fraud. And so far, Scott's gotten into quite a bit of trouble for fraudulent statements and lies and stuff like that. But my leader summons the wonderful Q. So I'm going to go respond to my leader. I have no idea. But anyway, yep. What is Q saying? And in case anybody's curious, these are the drug test results. Child Protective Services likes to open up fraudulent substance abuse cases. They'll say that you tested positive for drugs when you really haven't. They'll open up cases, call the police, have them surround your house and leave spotlights all over the place. Yeah, this is kind of where we are right now. All because they're opening up fraudulent substance exposed newborn cases, and CPS doesn't like the public finding out about it. And that's why we're here today. It'd be nice if my app loaded faster. Yeah, and they've been quote-unquote trying to call. It's the same person calling, telling me to go outside, not have anything to defend myself, not have any of the medical records, not have any of the documentation, that I can go outside without having a lawyer, without having anybody, and surrender myself to them. When their quote-unquote warrant is from a quote-unquote police officer who, when Scott broke down the door, here, let me show you what Scott did. When Scott came, broke down the door, I called the police to file a police report. Officer Carper came and responded and refused to take my statement. She refused to write a police report. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, Pirates. I would love to, but last week Scott put in a false petition to get me detained, and I haven't had the chance to clean up the house yet. I've been too busy ultimately dealing with a bunch of legal stuff, getting ready to move to DC, etc., etc. So on one hand, it's okay for him to assault me, break down the door, write false statements, and waste people's time and money. But it's not okay for me to tell him to leave me alone and leave me alone until Thursday so I can move out and move to DC. And instead he has to keep writing bullshit false motions to get me detained on disproven lies. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right in here, and I'm going to let everybody see how CPS opens up fraudulent cases, takes healthy children in case of neglect, gives them seizures, heart murmurs, and places them with people who whore them out. The foster mother of my daughter currently has gotten to be best friends with my father, who raped and impregnated me before I was a teen. So I find it very alarming that CPS is opening up fraudulent substance abuse cases and taking children from perfectly good environments to place them with known pedophiles who literally sell children for sex. So this is where we are right now. CPS, because that's ultimately who it is, it's not a legitimate judge's signature, wants me to go outside on the basis of a stamp from a commissioner because a officer, Carper, didn't do her job properly, refused to take the statement from me, and only took a statement from Scott. Refused to take any evidence from me, and I mean, Scott never really has any evidence of anything he says or does, so, you know, there's that. Well, I'm gonna finish getting comfortable.
You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1925B, and today's date is July 24th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Year of the Boomerang. Timing is everything. Force of nature, sheep no more. Now, before we get started, we've been talking about protecting your devices, protecting yourself from big tech. I mean, it's the year 2019, and if you're not using a VPN by now on your desktop, tablet, or mobile device while you browse the internet, then you're really exposing yourself to a lot of potential danger. Here, let me show you how easy this is. Click Connect. Once I'm connected, my IP address is now different than before. See? This month, Virtual Shield is offering a 4th of July celebration special. Sign up for free for 30-day trial to Virtual Shield VPN and see what the hype is all about. You have nothing to lose. Click the link below. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we know, Mueller testified today, and it was a complete disaster for Mueller. Seemed like he didn't know his report. Seems like he didn't even write the report, and he didn't want to read back any of the passages at all. He kept referring back to the report, just like we thought was going to happen, where he was going to say, no, I can't answer that. I have to refer back to the report. Or it's in the report. So he really didn't deviate at all. And the D's, they tried to push the idea of obstruction. That's all they were doing, trying to push it, trying to get something out of this so they can move ahead with their impeachment process. But it failed. It did not work. They even tried to push the Russian collusion narrative. And again, they need that because everything else would fall apart. That also failed. And people are starting to wake up. People are starting to scratch their head. This doesn't even make sense anymore. This is the individual that was investigating everything? We're going to be going over this a little bit later, and we'll be reviewing the entire Mueller testimony here. But first I wanted to go back and update us on this Representative Erica Thomas and Eric Sparks hoax. Now, Ryan Savendra, he tweeted out the following breaking. A Publix employee told police that it was Georgia Democrat State Representative Erica Thomas who told Eric Sparks to go back where you came from. Don Jr. responded to Ryan's tweet. That's interesting. It's almost like those politicians are taking DC Dem, the narrative, and carefully, or not so carefully, crafting hoax stories to garner sympathy and relevance. What is the deal with Democrats and hoaxes these days? Apparently facts don't work with their message. And you see this quite often, where they're out there telling you, oh, this person said that, this person said that, and it turns out to be a hoax. And maybe we should start saying these are all Smollett hoaxes, because that's how they're all turning out to be. There's no facts, there's no proof, and when you really look deep into it, it turns out to be fake. Now let's go into the Mueller hearing. It unfolded exactly as we expected. The push to keep the Russian story alive, and the other push to show that Trump obstructed the investigation. So the D's can push impeachment. That's what they want. They need to get him out of office. This is what they've been doing since the beginning. But there's a problem. There's no evidence of obstruction. The D's, they tried to push everything that they had, but they couldn't produce the evidence. If there was evidence, if they had the obstruction in the Mueller report, they would have used it to push the impeachment resolution. It wasn't there. Now, what they're doing is they're putting on this show to try to create this idea that there was obstruction so they can have another vote. This will fail once again because people are going to ask questions. Now, what's very interesting is that the question continually came up of who the report was written for. Was it written for the Attorney General? Mueller kept on saying, yes, it's written for the Attorney General, but was it really? Because when you look at this report and you read it, is this really a report that you would give the Attorney General? Or is this a report that you would give the D's to leak out to the mainstream media to make it look a lot worse than it was? Because in Volume 2, guess what? They just said, oh yeah, there were no charges, but this is what happened. Oh, there were no charges, there was no proof, but this is what happened. It seems like they were just taking what the mainstream media had, putting it into Volume 2, and then regurgitating it back out to the public. And most of it, I would say 99.99% of it, is completely fake. Now, the other thing is, the other question that came up is about obstruction. And this was shot down multiple times during the question. And we'll discuss that in a little bit. Another question was asked about exoneration. And remember, we discussed this yesterday. Prosecutors, they collect evidence. They put together a case. And they don't say, oh, this person is guilty, this person's exonerated. They don't do that. That's not for them to decide. And if you look at any law book, they don't even mention the prosecutor saying exonerate. Remember, everyone is innocent. So if you can't make the case, you don't say, well, I exonerate them. When you can't make the case and prove that they're guilty, it falls back to innocent, that they're automatically exonerated. And this came up many, many times. First, let's start with obstruction. Mike Mahoney tweeted out the following. Collins, at any point during the investigation, was it hindered or stopped? Mueller, no. Don Jr. responded to Mike's tweet. In other words, no obstruction. Trump tweeted out the following. Mueller was asked whether or not the investigation was impeded in any way, and he said no. In other words, there was no obstruction. Now, Representative Ben Klein asked Mueller about his interpretation of obstruction of justice, and he pointed to Statute 18 U.S. Code 15, Section 12, subsection C. And Representative Klein pointed out that the Attorney General did not agree with Mueller's interpretation of the obstruction statute. Mueller pretty much had no comment on this. Representative Klein brought up Andrew Weissman. Remember, he's the individual that went after Arthur Anderson. And he had a conviction against Arthur Anderson. Later on, it was overturned because his legal theory was unsound. Weissman's interpretation of this statute permitted the conviction of people involved in legal acts and shut down the firm, and many people lost their job. Then a judge overturned this ruling, and Representative Klein was giving this as an example to Mueller and saying, listen, your interpretation and Weissman's interpretation does not hold up in the court of law. And it's the same here. That's why he was bringing this up. Let's continue. Representative Collins caught former special counsel Robert Mueller in a contradiction in his testimony. In his opening statement, Mueller stated, "We do not address collusion, which is not a legal term. Rather, we focus on whether the evidence was sufficient to charge any member of the campaign with taking part in a criminal conspiracy," and it was not. That statement suggested that the report had not, in fact, concluded that Trump had colluded with Russia, contrary to what the president has said, and with common public understanding of the report. Collins began by asking Mueller whether collusion and conspiracy were synonymous. Mueller said no. However, Collins read Mueller's own report to him on page 180 of volume 1 of your report. You wrote, "As defined in legal dictionaries, collusion is largely synonymous with conspiracy, as that crime is set forth in General Federal Conspiracy Statute 18 U.S.C. 371. Are you sitting here today testifying something different than what your report states?" Mueller struggled to explain the contradiction and ultimately admitted that the interpretation in his report was the correct one, rather than the answer he had just given to Congress. So, Collins caught Mueller trying to deviate from what was in his report, and Collins caught him on it. Now, Representative John Ratcliffe brought the heat to Mueller. Take a listen to what he said.
The bottom of page 2 of volume 2 reads as follows. The evidence we obtained about the president's actions and intent presents difficult issues that prevent us from conclusively determining that no criminal conduct occurred. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Now, I read that correctly?
Yes.
All right. Now, your report, and today you said at all times the special counsel team operated under, was guided by, and followed Justice Department policies and principles. So, which DOJ policy or principle sets forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined?
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which DOJ policy or principle set forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined? Where does that language come from, Director? Where is the DOJ policy that says that? Let me make it easier.
Go ahead.
Can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined?
I cannot, but this is a unique
Okay,
situation.
well, you can't. Time is short. I've got 5 minutes. Let's just leave it at you can't find it because I'll tell you why. It doesn't exist.
In his report, and Collins caught him on it. Now, Representative John Ratcliffe brought the heat to Mueller. Take a listen to what he said.
Bottom of page 2 of volume 2 reads as follows. The evidence we obtained about the president's actions and intent presents difficult issues that prevent us from conclusively determining that no criminal conduct occurred. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Now, I read that correctly?
Yes.
All right. Now, your report, and today you said that all times the special counsel team operated under, was guided by, and followed Justice Department policies and principles. So, which DOJ policy or principle sets forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined?
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which DOJ policy or principle set forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined? language come from, Director? Where is the DOJ policy that says that? Let me make it easier.
Go ahead.
Can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined?
I cannot, but this is a unique
Okay,
situation.
well, you can't. Time is short. I've got 5 minutes. Let's just leave it at you can't find it because I'll tell you why. It doesn't exist. The special counsel's job, nowhere does it say that you were to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or that the special counsel report should determine whether or not to exonerate him. It's not in any of the documents. It's not in your appointment order. It's not in the special counsel regulations. It's not in the OLC opinions. It's not in the Justice Manual. And it's not in the principles of federal prosecution. Nowhere do those words appear together because respectfully, Director, it was not the special counsel's job to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or to exonerate him because the bedrock principle of our justice system is a presumption of innocence. It exists for everyone. Everyone is entitled to it, including sitting presidents. And because there is a presumption of innocence, prosecutors never, ever need to conclusively determine it. Now, Director, the special counsel applied this inverted burden of proof that I can't find and you said doesn't exist anywhere in the department policies, and you used it to write a report. And the very first line of your report, says, and as you read this morning, it authorizes the special counsel to provide the Attorney General with a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel. That's the very first word of your report, right?
That's correct.
Here's the problem, Director. The special counsel didn't do that. On volume 1, you did. On volume 2, with respect to potential obstruction of justice, the special counsel made neither a prosecution decision or a declination decision. You made no decision. You told us this morning and in your report that you made no determination. So respectfully, Director, you didn't follow the special counsel regulations. It clearly says, write a confidential report about decisions reached. Nowhere in here does it say, write a report about decisions that weren't reached. You wrote 180 pages. 180 pages about decisions that weren't reached, about potential crimes that weren't charged or decided. And respectfully, by doing that, you managed to violate every principle and the most sacred of traditions about prosecutors not offering extra prosecutorial analysis about potential crimes that aren't charged. So Americans need to know this as they listen to the Democrats and socialists on the other side of the aisle, as they do dramatic readings from this report, that volume 2 of this report was not authorized under the law to be written. It was written to a legal standard that does not exist at the Justice Department. And it was written in violation of every DOJ principle about extra prosecutorial commentary. I agree with the chairman this morning when he said Donald Trump is not above the law. He's not. But he's damn sure he will be below the law, which is where volume 2 of this report puts it.
Now, Don Jr., he attached Representative John Ratcliffe's video, which you just watched, to his tweet, and he said, Representative John Ratcliffe, a former federal prosecutor, brings the heat and shows everyone watching what a disgrace this whole investigation was. And when you watched it, you can see how this is a disgrace. Trump tweeted out the following: so Democrats and others can illegally fabricate a crime, try pinning it on a very innocent president, and when he fights back against this illegal and treasonous attack on our country, they call it obstruction. Wrong. Why didn't Robert Mueller investigate the investigators? Now, Jim Jordan, he caught Mueller off guard because he was bringing up Mifsud, Papadopoulos, and he was asking Mueller about this. Now, of course, Mueller's not going to answer any of these questions. He's going to stick to the report. But Jim Jordan wanted to bring this out into the open. Take a listen to what Jim Jordan had to say.
FBI interviewed him in February. FBI interviews him in February. When the special counsel's office interviewed Mifsud, did he lie to you guys too?
Can't get into that.
Did you interview Mifsud?
Can't get into that.
Is Mifsud Western intelligence or Russian intelligence?
Can't get into that.
A lot of things you can't get into. What's interesting, you can charge 13 Russians no one's ever heard of, no one's ever seen, no one's ever going to hear of them, no one's ever going to see them,
You can charge them. You can charge all kinds of people who are around the president with false statements. But the guy who launches the guy who puts this whole story in motion, you can't charge him. I think that's amazing.
I'm not certain I agree with your characterizations.
Well, I'm reading from your report. Nixon told Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos tells the diplomat tells the FBI opens the investigation July 31st, 2017. Here we are 3 years later, July of 2019, the country's been put through this, and the central figure who launches it all lies to us, and you guys don't hunt him down and interview him again, and you don't charge him with a crime. Now here's the good news. Here's the good news. The president was falsely accused of conspiracy. The FBI does a 10-month investigation, and James Comey, when we deposed him a year ago, told us at that point they had nothing. You do a 22-month investigation. At the end of that 22 months, you find no conspiracy. And what's the Democrats want to do? They want to keep investigating. They want to keep going. Maybe a better course of action is to figure out how the false accusation started. Maybe it's to go back and actually figure out why Joseph Nipson was lying to the FBI. And here's the good news. Here's the good news. That's exactly what Bill Barr's doing. And thank goodness for that. That's exactly what the Attorney General and John Durham are doing. They're going to find out why we went through this three-year saga and get to the bottom of it.
Now, the key part of all of this is that Jim Jordan said, don't worry, this is the good news. Bill Barr is investigating where this all started. Jim Jordan got it out to the public, everyone that was watching, that there's an investigation going on, trying to understand where all this fake, fabricated information came from. Jim Jordan broke it down, so now people are asking questions. This was all done on purpose. This is part of the plan. Actually, I think it's a fantastic thing that Mueller testified, because it worked in the opposite of what the Dems really wanted to happen. And it's bringing it out to the public, where the public now is asking questions. And one of mine is, hey, how did this start? Where did all this information come from? Are these really Russians? And this is exactly what the Patriots wanted. Trump tweeted out the following: why didn't Robert Mueller and his band of 18 angry Democrats spend any time investigating crooked Hillary Clinton, lying and leaking James Comey, Lisa Page and her psycho lover Peter S., Andy McCabe, the beautiful Orr family, Fusion GPS, and many more, including himself and Andrew W.? Well, the reason for this, and he was asked this question, it's because it was outside his purview. Now, his mandate required him to investigate Russian interference in the election without specific reference to a particular candidate or party. So if he was investigating Russia, trying to manipulate the election, looking for collusion, why would this be outside of his mandate? Because his mandate was to look for that. And if it brought him in the direction of the Clintons, if it brought him in the direction of others, shouldn't he have followed that? And again, they're bringing this up on purpose to make people say, yeah, if this is your mandate, why didn't you do this? Well, because that wasn't his mandate. His mandate was to protect these individuals, put it in the report, and say, oh yeah, DNC was hacked by Russia. Yeah, WikiLeaks got the information because they were dealing with Russia. It's all about Russia. And that's what Mueller did. And I've said this before. This whole thing was to protect certain individuals like Clinton's, the Uranium One scandal, which Mueller was involved in, and Obama with spying. Part of this was to protect them. The other part was to go after Trump. So he actually had two mandates. Now, during the questioning, Representative Louis Gohmert, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, said he was not in the Oval Office May 16, 2017 for a meeting with Trump as a candidate to be FBI director. So the question is, why was he there? Or was this a setup in some way? Now let's put together all the information. Mueller implies in his testimony his appearance was to discuss the general qualifications of an FBI director. Mueller specifically says he was not there as a candidate for the position. Now, Mueller knows that he already served 12 years and he would not get this position because he already served. Trump and Vice President Pence were advised that Mueller was applying for the job of FBI director. Trump tweeted out the following. It has been reported that Mueller is saying that he did not apply and interview for the job of FBI director and get turned down the day before he was wrongfully appointed special counsel. Hope he doesn't say that under oath, in that we have numerous witnesses to the interview, including the Vice President of the United States. Now, the question is, why would there be such a distinct difference? The answer might be with Rod Rosenstein. This is how the sting worked. Rod Rosenstein, he told the White House that Mueller is coming to see Trump for an interview to be an FBI director. Rosenstein told Mueller he was going to the White House to discuss general qualifications. Rosenstein and McCabe were essentially carrying out a sting operation. And this is why there is so much confusion. Now, during the questioning, Robert Mueller was asked repeatedly about how he didn't indict Trump after concluding his 22-month investigation into whether the president or his campaign colluded with Russia to alter the outcome of the 2016 election. Democratic Representative Ted Lieu, well, he asked the question. The reason you did not indict Trump is because the OLC decision. Is that correct? Mueller responded, that is correct. The OLC decision is a ruling from the Office of Legal Counsel within the Department of Justice dating back to the time of Richard Nixon and Watergate that says a sitting president cannot be indicted. Several other Democrats asked the same question, eliciting the same response from Mueller. But Representative Debbie Lesko, a Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, cut through the entire mess when she pointed out that Mueller said exactly the opposite in his 448-page report. She said, this is not what you said in the report, and it's not what you told Attorney General Barr. And in fact, in a joint statement that you released with the Department of Justice on May 29th after your press conference, your office issued a statement with the Department of Justice that said the Attorney General has previously stated that the special counsel repeatedly affirmed that he was not saying that, but for the OLC opinion, he would have found the president obstructed justice, she said. Lesko asked Mueller if he stood by that statement. He said, I would have to look at it more closely before I said I agree. Later on, Mueller came out during this whole hearing and he corrected the statement after he realized what he did. And the Dems, they thought they were on to something. And it turns out that he's going back to his original statement that was in the report. So that was a dead end for them. Now, Nunes came out and he pretty much sums up the entire narrative and the entire plan. Take a listen.
Welcome everyone to the last gasp of the Russia collusion conspiracy theory. As Democrats continue to foist this spectacle on the American people, as well as you, Mr. Mueller, the American people may recall the media first began spreading this conspiracy theory in the spring of 2016, when Fusion GPS, funded by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign, started developing the Steele dossier, a collection of outlandish accusations that Trump and his associates were Russian agents. Fusion GPS, Steele, and other Confederates fed these absurdities to naive or partisan reporters and to top officials in numerous government agencies, including the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the State Department. Among other things, the FBI used dossier allegations to obtain a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. Despite acknowledging dossier allegations as being salacious and unverified, former FBI Director James Comey briefed those allegations to President Obama and President-elect Trump. Those briefings conveniently leaked to the press, resulting in the publication of the dossier and launching thousands of false press stories based on the word of a foreign ex-spy, one who admitted he was desperate that Trump lose the election and who was eventually fired as an FBI source for leaking to the press. After Comey himself was fired, by his own admission, he leaked derogatory information on President Trump to the press for the specific purpose, and successfully so, of engineering the appointment of a special counsel who sits here before us today. The FBI investigation was marred by further corruption and bizarre abuses. Top DOJ official Bruce Orr, whose own wife worked on Fusion GPS's anti-Trump operation, fed Steele's information to the FBI even after the FBI fired Steele. The top FBI investigator and his lover, another top FBI official, constantly texted about how much they hated Trump and wanted to stop him from being elected. And the entire investigation was opened based not on Five Eyes intelligence, but on a tip from a foreign politician about a conversation involving Joseph Mifsud. He's a Maltese diplomat who's widely portrayed as a Russian agent, but seems to have far more connections with Western governments, including our own FBI and our own State Department, than with Russia. Brazenly ignoring all these red flags, as well as the transparent absurdity of the claims they are making, the Democrats have argued for nearly 3 years that evidence of collusion is hidden just around the corner. Like the Loch Ness Monster, they insist it's there, even if no one can find it. Consider this. In March 2017, Democrats on this committee said they had more than circumstantial evidence of collusion, but they couldn't reveal it yet. Mr. Mueller was soon appointed, and they said he would find the collusion. Then when no collusion was found in Mr. Mueller's indictments, the Democrats said we'd find it in his final report. Then when there was no collusion in the report, we were told Attorney General Barr was hiding it. Then when it was clear Barr wasn't hiding anything, we were told it will be revealed through a hearing with Mr. Mueller himself. And now that Mr. Mueller is here, they are claiming that the collusion has actually been in his report all along, hidden in plain sight. And they're right. There is collusion in plain sight. Collusion between Russia and the Democratic Party. The Democrats colluded with Russian sources to develop the Steele dossier, and Russian lawyer Natalia Vesnitskaya colluded with the dossier's key architect, Fusion GPS head Glenn Simpson. The Democrats have already admitted, both in interviews and through their usual anonymous statements to reporters, that today's hearing is not about getting information at all. They said they want to, quote, bring the Mueller report to life and create a television moment through ploys like having Mr. Mueller recite passages from his own report. In other words, this hearing is political theater. It's a Hail Mary attempt to convince the American people that collusion is real and it's concealed in the report. Granted, that's a strange argument to make about a report that is public. It's almost like the Democrats prepared arguments accusing Mr. Barr of hiding the report and didn't bother to update their claims once he published the entire thing. Among congressional Democrats, the Russia investigation was never about finding the truth. It's always been a simple media operation. By their own accounts, this operation continues in this room today. Once again, numerous pressing issues this committee needs to address are put on hold to indulge the political fantasies of people who believed it was their destiny to serve Hillary Clinton's administration. It's time for the curtain to close on the Russia hoax. The conspiracy theory is dead. At some point, I would argue, we're going to have to get back to work. Until then, I yield back the balance of my time.
Now, as you can see, Nunes, he just laid it all out. And he just told them exactly, told actually America what the entire plan was. Now, the entire testimony has been a complete disaster for the Democrats. If Democrats believe that Robert Mueller would provide them with additional ammunition for an impeachment inquiry, they made an extraordinary miscalculation. Not only was Mueller often flustered and unprepared to talk about his own report, actually didn't even look like he wrote it because we know that Weissman did, we have to wonder to what extent was he involved in the day-to-day work of the investigation, or was he just a figurehead there? And I do believe that's all he was. Now, the Democrats, they spent their whole entire time trying to push obstruction of justice. Their case basically boiled down to the charge of attempted obstruction. Trump never interfered with Mueller, never fired him, never hindered him. Yes, he was frustrated. Why? Because he knew that this was fake, phony, and false. It was a witch hunt, and there was no there.
Sorry, Gina.
Under the Constitution,
All right, the police are throwing shit into the house. They're throwing in smoke grenades. They just broke into the house. They threw something into the upstairs. It looks like they got smoke grenades going upstairs.
much less the president himself. Mueller admitted under oath that his investigation.
They threw smoke grenades upstairs into the upstairs windows. I just heard all the glass break. Guys, please record. They're throwing smoke grenades on the upstairs. They threw smoke grenades in the top window. The top window's broken. You can see how the blinds have been taken off. Except for the thing is that warrant isn't signed by a judge. That warrant hasn't been signed by anybody legitimate. So we just had them launch grenades or something into my bedroom without a legitimate warrant. If you want to look on that warrant, there's no signature from a judge. There's no signature from a judge, and the petition was written by the same police officer who refused to take my testimony about the way Scott was assaulting me. So I am not leaving the house. I didn't do anything. All I did was follow the law, follow the medical records. I didn't open up fraudulent cases. Is this what you're afraid of? A spear? Is that what you're afraid of? A little teeny tiny spear? That's not a legitimate warrant. It's not signed by a legitimate judge. The officer who put it in didn't actually put it in. There is no signature from Scott. You see them threatening? There's no legitimate signature on this. Let me show you guys this. Now they know that this entire case has been fraudulent. The only signatures on here from the applicant is the officer who refused to take my report. So we have Officer Carper, who refused to take my report, is the only signature on here. Now we do have a stamp from from a commissioner who's not actually a judge. Now that's not a judge. That's a commissioner. And that's not Scott who wrote the petition. That's Officer Carper, the same officer who has refused to take my information when I wanted to file a police report. So we have Scott McFalls breaking a front door, and then we have the police officers launching stuff in through the window. And this is all because I managed to get medical record proof that the Department of Social Services / CPS opens up fraudulent substance exposed newborn cases. That's why we're here right now. It's because we've caught CPS opening up fraudulent cases, taking healthy children in case of neglect. A big reason why the police don't want to come to my front door is because we have medical records on the front door and a letter of recommendation for Iris's return. So a reason why they're afraid to come to the front door or to any of the doors is because that would require them passing the blood work, and that would require them passing the recommendation for Iris's return, and that would require them acknowledging the fact that they are ignoring the recommendations from mental health professionals to listen to police officers. There we go. Can you guys hear it? This is what they're doing, guys. You are trying to hurt me by launching shit and breaking glass. You are trying to hurt people. You are trying to hurt people by doing this. This is the police. This is how dangerous they are. They do not have any paperwork, and instead of letting me address the paperwork, they're launching shit. They won't let me get access to my legal documents. They won't let me talk to a lawyer. Instead, they're launching shit into the house.
And I'm just so sure that it's not true what they're saying. And if you want to see the whole video, I have this on Twitter. Go to x22report.com or just go to YouTube and find it, or it will bring me and you'll be able to find it at this point. Quickly go over there and take a listen to what this individual has to say. Let's get into some of Q's posts. This is post 3468. Q gives us a post that was back from August 11, 2018, and this is the illusion of choice, where there's 6 different media companies that are controlling the news out there today. It says define.
Notice how they. Notice how. Notice how they start launching shit. When I start showing the signatures, and that's when they start launching stuff. When I start showing the signatures, and I start showing how they don't have legitimate warrants, they start launching shit and breaking stuff. As soon as you start showing the public that what they don't have is legitimate, they start launching shit and start attacking you. This is also because I'm suing.
So they gave a questionnaire. They asked certain questions. insecure, poor, didn't have a family, and they targeted these individuals and used them. Post 3470 gave us a Twitter link to Senator Ted Cruz. This says, today I
Let me bring my...
Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen and FBI Director Christopher Wray calling for an investigation.
Let me bring my legal note.
Under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, which is RICO. So Ted Cruz
Let me take my legal bag with me and I'll come out.
Gave us a Twitter link to John Solomon.
Let me take my legal bag with me and I'll come out. I know you can hear me.
Prosecutors seek access to Professor Joseph Mifsud to determine if any improper surveillance occurred on George Papadopoulos.
No.
So Robert Mueller soon may be exposed as the magician of omission on Russia. And if you want to read the article, you can read this whole entire article about it. But basically, it's pulling back the curtain, letting everyone know how this was done and how these players were used.
Don't you get it? They only...
Be ready, Bob Q. Post 3472, Q says 2019, year of the boomerang. Q has been warning us and them that Mueller's testimony will backfire. Everything that they threw out is going to come back around and bite them. And this is the year that this is going to happen. Remember Russian collusion, colluding with foreign powers, spying, all this stuff about Trump is all going to come back on them. Remember, think mirror. This is the boomerang. Post 3473. Q says, there are puppets. There are puppet masters. Which is Mueller. This is in brackets in bold. He's a puppet. Attempt to replace James Comey as FBI director failed.
Notice how they start launching stuff into the house to keep me from talking as soon as I start showing. Then let me come out with my legal documents. Let me come out with my legal documents. I know you can hear me. Let me come out with my notebook, my bag. Let me come out with my bag.
Treason. 2019, year of the boomerang. What they tried to do is go and fight them. Post 3474. A Twitter link to QAnon pastry chef shows a video of Representative Omar.
You're pissing off the wrong person.
Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country.
So, as soon as I start showing you guys the fact that the petitioner is the same police officer who refused to take my report, the petitioner and the signature is the same police officer, it's the same person. It's amazing, guys. Let me come out with the documents.
Truth is force of nature. The truth will come out, and it will blow everything out of the water because it's a force of nature. The truth cannot be held down. The truth will always stand. It can take a beating.
Then let me bring my documents out with me. Let me bring out my legal You breaking glass is more likely to cause problems.
That I've been told seems to be conflicted. Those people that were pushing Russian collusion obstruction.
Let me bring the legal documents with you. Let me bring my documents with me. Let me take my documents with me. Let me take my Come on, come upstairs. Stay here. Let me bring my No, stay upstairs. Diamond, get upstairs. Diamond, get upstairs. Let me bring my documents. I need my legal documents. I need my legal documents and I'll come out. Let me bring my legal documents. I need my legal. No. Let me bring my legal documents with me. Fine. How is this resolving things? How is this resolving things? Why are you opening? Why are you opening fraudulent substance abuse cases and targeting families who are trying to stop people from trafficking and abusing children? Can I bring my legal documents with me? Come on, come upstairs. I don't have pockets. I don't have pockets. It's in a bag. Can I open up the door and put the bag around my waist? I don't have a gun or anything like that. I'm just going to put the bag around my shoulders and walk out with my arms up. Is that okay? I don't have pockets. I don't have pockets. I don't have pockets. I have a bag. It's a lot of documents in a bag. They're documents in a bag. It's a lot of documents in a bag. And I don't have pockets. It's a lot of documents. I can't just throw it out the window. I will put the bag on my waist. There will be nothing in my hands and I will come out. Fine, I can do that. Stop talking. Stop talking so I can communicate what I'm doing. Clear? I'm coming downstairs. Don't you launch a fucking thing. Hey, I told you to shut up so I can communicate with you. I'm coming downstairs. I have 2 objects in my right hand. I'm gonna put them... What was that about my clothing? Can you please shut up so we can actually communicate? What did you say, that I can bring my clothes and my documents? I'm trying to communicate with you. I'm going to get my documents and I'm going to close the bag with my clothes in it and I'm going to come up front, okay? Hey, that's hitting me! That shit's hitting me! All right. I'm trying and they're not wanting me to. You are hitting me with that shit. You just hit me in the face with one of those pieces of glass. Don't sit here and say you don't want to hurt me. Let me get to my documents. This is what's going on, guys. You guys see that table right there, that blue bag? That's my documents and those are my clothes. Well, I'm trying to get to my documents, but you're breaking glass in my face. Do you want the documents or not? I don't have a pocket, and it's a lot of documents. They need to stay in the bag. Once again. All right, stop launching shit. Stop launching shit and I will come out. But you gotta let me communicate with you. Well, last time I tried to step down the stairs, you broke glass in my face. Can I come downstairs and get the documents without you breaking glass in my face? So hold on, you don't want me to come out because you're breaking glass in my face every time I come close to the door. Are you going to shoot me in the face the next time I come down the stairs? You just shot me in the face with glass when I tried to come downstairs and follow your orders. Can I bring my documents with me? Are you going to break the window again when I start walking towards my documents? I'm not going to have anything in my hand. Can I speak, please? My documents are in a bag by the front table. I have to get to the bag to get to my documents. All right, I'm coming out. Stop breaking shit. I need to get my medical records and my documents in my bag. You said I could. You said I could get the documents in my bag, didn't you?
Jennifer, you need to come out right now.
Can I get the documents? I'm getting the documents. I'm getting the documents you said I could get. Okay? I'm getting the documents. See my hands? I'm getting the documents. I'm getting the documents. Do you see a spear? I'm getting documents. Getting documents. Hands empty. Can you see?
Come out front and listen for command. Do it
Jennifer, you need to keep your hands empty hands. Nothing in your hands. Drop the phone. Drop the phone. Empty hands.
Diamond, go inside. Can I close the door? Can I close? Stop talking. Can I close the door behind me? Yes or no? Can I let her back in? Can I let her back in? Let me let her back in, please. Diamond, come on. Diamond, come inside. I'm not holding it, it's around my shoulders. You said empty hands, the only thing that's in my hands is my phone. What? I don't exactly trust you or your body cameras. I'm not a dog, don't talk to me like that, please.